Hello, Mr. Nichols' Brit Lit class, as you can see on the file in front of you. For those of you who are watching this later. What was I saying? This is a great start. At this point, I've passed out the syllabus to everybody, which you're all here. So, I mean, anybody coming back and watching this is probably just going to be a new student, or one of you going back and seeing this later. But I'm going to be scrolling through the digital version this entire time instead of using a paper copy. One thing I want to pass out first, and it's going to start here on this side of the room and make its way in a horseshoe fashion around back to the front over here. So it's going to go front to back to back to front. Is a class email list. Even if you've written down your email before, I'd like you to write down whatever email you use. So I prefer, if you have an email you check more often than you do your Dragon mail, then go ahead and put that email down here. That way, if I had to contact you, some kind of emergency, or you submitted an assignment that was blank, and I'm like, did you not realize it's blank? And so I need you to, submit a real one. Then I'd have your email here that I could contact you at. But for the most part, when I do class-wide communication, I'm just going to use the email function in Blackboard, which will go to your Dragon mail. Does anybody have their Dragon mail linked to their personal email? So every time you get an email there, it links it to the other one?
Yeah.
So a couple of people. I have a video that'll show you how to do that if y'all want me to add that to the Blackboard page. See some nods, so we'll go ahead and do that. But for now, this class email list, you'll just write your name on the left and then write your email on the right. And please print as legibly as possible. Sometimes I have to write down like 4 or 5 different email addresses in your email field on my Excel file when I transfer this later, because I can't tell what you wrote, and so I write down 4 different possibilities based on the handwriting I see. I prefer not to have to do that. So email list here.
Some poor soul's gonna get
A what?
some poor soul that has that email address that you thought it was. So you're like, where's your assignment?
Yeah, and I always have to start that email too with, please, if this is not this person, do not look at this email and delete immediately. If it is, and then I continue. Hopefully I don't have to do that. So I think there are a couple of changes I have to make on the syllabus. I actually don't know what they are. I just know that I printed your guys' syllabi on Friday, and I kept working on Blackboard on Sunday. So there could be minor issues with it. I don't know what they are, but we're going to find out as we go. If I say, no, that's not right. But it's very hard for me to sit down with my wife at home and go through like an hour and a half of orally going over the syllabus. And she's like, please stop talking, the baby's trying to sleep. And I'm like, I have to do this for the family. And she's like, no, you really just give them the syllabus and go home. I can't do that. Morally, I can't. And she's like, fine, whatever it is. This conversation didn't even take place. So we're going to look here at the syllabus for a little bit and talk. And I'm sure there's going to be some things I have to change. I just don't know what they are yet. So this is summer 2017, Brit Lit 1. I should have put summer 1 2017, but I didn't. Oh well. So that is my name. That's my email address. That's my office phone. I wouldn't suggest calling it, especially in the summertime, because I list an hour of office hours after class, but with the baby, my wife may be calling me every day at 12:32. Which is 2 minutes after this class is over, and she'll say, hey, Nichols, because she calls me by my last name. She doesn't really. That was a joke. Nobody laughed then. She'll just say, honey, I need you to come home and poop everywhere. And I'll be, okay, just give me a second. And then I'll come home. So, I mean, it's very possible I might not be in there for the full hour that I have listed here. So if that is the case, I mean, it'd be best to just email me, because that's the best way to contact me. Because I tend to get emails directly to my phone. I have it on the alerts setting, which means that I cannot look at anything else until it goes away. Like, I have to at least acknowledge it. So know that if you ever email me, I have acknowledged it. I've gone, and then I will swipe up and it goes away. But I will at least see it every single time. So if it's like, Nichols, I won't be there today, I'll always see that. Then Blackboard's where all of our work's going to be done for the class. In the last class that you new people had, or people, the people who had another teacher before me was new, did y'all have to use Blackboard, or was it all printed papers?
No.
You did use Blackboard? Okay, that's good. You familiar with Blackboard?
I can't remember.
Okay, well, I'll go through it in pretty much a pretty detailed way, so that it should be intuitive, I think, after a while. Anybody, somebody say that back there, or a question? Oh, I thought I heard it. Oh, and and then you stop.
You
Oh,
just started talking?
I was gonna say Dr. Farton did everything paper printed,
Oh, but y'all had me, so.
but then I already had it.
Oh, okay. So that works. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
So this class meets from 10:20 to 12:30. Then I'll try to be here from 12:30 to 1:30 every day, my office hours afterwards, but it's subject to change. And I did change the room assignment on here from 223 or 116, 118 to 223. I did have time to do that because when I realized this class only had like 25 people, I said there's no reason for us to be in that giant room with the echoes. Have y'all been in there before for a class?
No.
It's
Wait, the one.
best avoided. So we have 3 texts for this class. There is the Norton Anthology of English Literature. This is the one I'll be using. I see many of you already have one in front of you. But I also have this other, this is weird. I have this other edition which looks exactly the same, doesn't it?
They're the same book.
The only problem is they're not. I think it was an intern at Norton from the switch to the 8th to the, is it the 9th edition? Yeah, from the switch to the 8th and 9th edition, this intern left the description for Wordsworth's Ode Intimations of Immortality in the book, but forgot to put the poem in. He just pulled it out. Now this one they realized, and it's the same edition, the 9th edition, they realized he did that, and they put it back in, but it shifted some of the page numbers around the book. So you may have one or either of those editions. So if when you look at the page number in the book, your poem is not on the page number it says, I went through and checked my edition against that one and realized that it only ever varies by as many as 2 pages. So if you flip 2 pages forward or 2 pages back, you'll find the poem on the page number roughly where I said. But that might be an issue with some of your textbooks, but not all of your textbooks. So I just wanted to mention that ahead of time. If you have a different textbook or no textbook at all, which I would not suggest. The no textbook at all I wouldn't suggest. Different textbook like the split edition, that would be fine. You just have the first part and the second part. But this has lots and lots of footnotes in it. I liken going through this class without this book and learning Brit-Lit without this book is like instead of having a teacher in a math class, you're given a math textbook and told learn math. You ever tried that before? No. So the footnotes are like I'm your teacher that explains the footnotes and how they relate to you in some cases. And the footnotes provide all the information to help understand. Sometimes you'll see the footnotes and go, oh, well, that explains everything I didn't understand. Kind of like a math teacher. He says, oh, but look at the way these relate. And you're like, oh. And or you go, I still don't understand.
It's math.
But still, it's going to be better to have the help for understanding than it would be not. So my suggestion, definitely have a book. If you look all this stuff online, like I had a couple people do last semester, they were confused the whole semester. They didn't understand any of the poetry because all they were doing was reading the poetry and not reading, oh, look, this poem called Easter 1916 is about this Easter rebellion in Ireland against England when they said, well, I know we gave you freedom, but we're taking it back. And so these people who were fighting against the British, and they held a stand there, like a fight, you would know none of this. You'd just start reading the poem and be like, huh? Ireland's a place where motley is worn? What?
I like the footnotes where it goes, oh, look.
Yeah, it tells you all the historical stuff you need to know to understand the poem. And so if you look at that up online, you're not going to get any of that. So it's going to be very hard for you if you don't do that. Midway through the semester, and when I say midway, I mean like next week, we read King Lear, which is not in this book. You can totally read it online. That's possible. But again, and I hope that the bookstore down there has an edition, or if y'all have an edition at your school somewhere in somewhere, you should. Now I'm not saying you do, I'm saying you should. So this book is a Shakespeare play, King Lear, but I want to just read for you a second here. Let's see if we can find some. This has a lot of notes on this page. Persuade me to the murder of your lordship, but that I told him the revenging gods gainst parricides that all the thunder been, spoke with how manifold and strong a bond the child was bound to the father. Sir, in fine, Seeing how loathly opposite I stood in his unnatural purpose and fell motion with his prepared sword, he charges home my unprovided body, lanced mine arm, and when he saw my best alarum spirits, bold in the quarrel's right, roused to the encounter, or whether gasped by the noise I made, full suddenly he fled.
Again, but in English.
And you're like, yeah, exactly, again, but in English. So there are some that do, Spark Notes puts out these ones. Have y'all ever seen them before? It's called like Shakespeare Made Easy or something like that. They have a King Lear Made Easy edition. I don't like those because what they do is they put an English translation on the right and Shakespeare, or English translation on the left, Shakespeare on the right. The problem is people end up just mostly reading the translation and not reading Shakespeare at all, which is not going to make your brain stretch. It won't exercise your critical thinking skills and your adaptive abilities in English and language, so it's going to be pointless. However, these editions, if you can find one, and they should have one down in the bookstore, has the Shakespeare on the right, but on the left it has terms that might not be easy to figure out or know, like it explains what exactly fell motion means. That means fierce attack. Prepared. Already drawn, charges home, as impetuously and effectively attacks. Unprovided, defenseless. Best alarm spirits, my best courage aroused by the alarm, or call to arms. So it's got all that stuff that would help you understand exactly what's being said without giving you a full-on translation, because the English translations, the contemporary English translations are always stupid to me. Yes?
Do you know how much the book costs?
This one that I have was $6, but I bought it like 7 years ago. So those... Oh, the big one?
Yeah.
Just something.
I don't know off the top of my head. However, I will say that if you want the book quickly and you're willing to pay like I think a nickel or 10 cents, if you go down to the computer lab and you find whatever the Amazon, and I'm talking Amazon Direct, like I'm talking Amazon will ship it with Prime. You find if it says this is sold by Amazon, you find the Amazon price. And you can verify that on the website. You go down to our bookstore, you print that out, and you bring it in there and say, hey, Amazon's selling it for this price. Then you can get it at our bookstore for the same price Amazon has it. Only if it's sold directly by Amazon, which I guess I can look right now. Because we are on a computer, and those are fancy machines that tell us things. It says, hi, Christina, because that's my wife. Norton Anthology of English Literature, 9th edition. They also have access to older editions, which I would not officially suggest. They have it for, in paperback, $64.25, but it usually ships in one day. Well, let me look at this. Let me make sure if it's sold by Amazon. No, it says sold by Brooklyn Bob, so that's not Amazon.
Sounds like pretty reputable.
Yeah, I feel like they match up.
There it is. Who's this sold by? Okay, so this one's sold by Amazon, and it sells for $73.32. So if you went down to the bookstore, they could get it to you for $73.32. It's possible. It is possible to do this without the book. It's just very hard, especially considering that Beowulf is a translation.
I've actually read that.
Oh, you've read Beowulf. Okay, well, that'll help. Seamus Haney's translation is the one that we have in this book, and online you can find translations, but they're not Seamus Haney's. Additionally, with Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, translations by, I'm having trouble with the guy's name off the top of my head, but the ones you can find online, they're really, really bad. So the choice is yours, I should say. And then King Lear as well. The choice is yours. Now, let us go back to the syllabus. There's also, it has as an official book for the course, the Hacker and Summers Writer's Reference with Writing About Literature, 8th edition. But that really is just for MLA help. So if you don't have that one, I think that it would be okay if you didn't have that. But you will have to supplement your lack of knowledge with MLA with online materials. Also, there should be people in the course who still have their hacker books, unless they gave them back to the school, which you did, right? Yeah. Of course you did. They're always like, give it back. I need it this next semester. Okay, here you go. But not until later. So, also, handouts. You're required to keep all handouts that are received. And we're back to the syllabus. Bless you. I suggest having a blue or black ink pen, pencil, notebook paper for written work, Scantron pencil for exams. Now with computer access, you're required to have access to a computer, whether it's on campus or at home. The computer is needed for access to the internet for Blackboard research and email occasionally. A printer will be needed, like if we had a peer review, but I don't think I have to this semester. I've called but haven't gotten verification. I'm not responsible for your lack of access to computer items. Also for your safety, I would suggest you always have a USB drive for saving materials and also back them up to a cloud service. Writing on papers without saving them is foolish. Also keep in mind you can email a paper to yourself or use Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive Cloud, or OneDrive, iCloud, that kind of stuff to back up papers, yes.
You said something about peer review.
I don't think that I have to do it in the summer semester with Britlet courses, but...
We didn't do it.
Huh?
We didn't do it last semester in English 1302.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, we did.
Do what?
Before the research paper, yeah.
Yeah. You may have been gone that day, but we did it.
Wait, I don't remember doing it. No, you weren't.
It's when we all sat here. and-
Yeah, because I know it happened.
Yeah.
Mainly I know it happened because I had to make a report about it at the end of the semester and send that report to my superior. So I will go ahead and say, since y'all saw the word Scantron there and you're like, oh, but what is this with the exams? So with the Britlet courses, we don't have the same deal on for those students who had me in the fall or the spring semester, where there's an essay exam and you can be exempt from it. So it's not that same situation. So there's not going to be an essay exam at the end with an exemption from it. So there's going to be a midterm and there's going to be a final, and everybody will take both. So just throwing that out there so that the disappointment happens now, not later. And you're like, what? We're taking a but I've already made plans. But you don't have to, because you're going to be here. All the people who haven't been spoiled are like, grow up, babies. I'm not like that. I'm understanding. That was a pretty sweet deal, right?
Yeah.
ACGM and catalog description, I can go through that, or you could just read it later on your own. I mean, y'all basically all know that. I mean, all I can basically sum up for you is it's part of the humanities core. So you need one humanities course. This is that course. So you're taking it. Those of you who are in high school right now, you need a Britlit requirement for your senior English, or you need a senior English to go with your high school, and so this can satisfy that. By being British literature, it covers the same stuff that's covered in the high school curriculum. Prerequisite, strangely enough, you only have to have completed 1301. Then we have the purpose, foundational component areas, required core objectives, learning outcomes. I'll just skip that page because y'all can read that if you'd like to. The grading policy is much simpler than you've seen before in my class in terms of numerically how to figure it. We have Blackboard discussion posts, and it says 30 of them, but really it's 10 different instances of 3. So it's not like you'll have 30 separate mini assignments. It's not like that. You'll have 10 different times you'll have to turn something in. Blackboard quizzes as well, there's 10 of those, and both of those count for 10% apiece. In-class discussion and participation, so keeping up in class and talking in class, 10%. Synthesis analysis essay is 10%. Then I believe we have the midterm is due. Then we have critical evaluation is also 10%. That's also an essay. Oh, I didn't put the word essay after that. I guess I could add that. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary, but I mean, you'll see later when I hand it out, or not when I hand it out, when we talk about it, that it's an essay. Then there's the Research Argumentation Essay, which is basically research paper. That one's worth a little more. That's 20%. Then you have a presentation, which is worth 10%. But the presentation's very easy, so don't freak out about that at all, because it's going to be so simple. And then the final exam's 10%. Both the midterm and final will be Scantron-based exams. I'm going to try to separate people physically as much as I can, because I've had a problem specifically from dual credit students in the past with cheating on those exams. And I'm not going to announce to you that you've cheated on one of those exams. I'll just invalidate all the scores for those people who took it. Usually that's on the final. I have to that midterm. I can say, well, this is your grade that's counting, and you're like, why? And I'm like, well, because it was the exact same answers as somebody else, and that never happens. And I every time I have papers turned in, I look at all the scantrons, make sure like the scores of the scores are the same or similar. I also look at people who are near each other and compare where the answers are. You wouldn't believe it, but like let's say 4 people who don't look at each other's paper, like scantrons, they are more wildly different than you would think. But people who do look, there'll be like an answer here or an answer there that's different, but not enough to, you're like, that's weird. There's just patterns you find over the years. But later I'll get to this where I say don't cheat, so that don't be a big deal at all, right? Because y'all are like, I don't cheat. Okay, assignments and exercises conditions. Anything that's turned in will be completed using the default font for Blackboard. If you're typing it in there, which I don't suggest, I suggest typing on Word and using Times New Roman 12-point font. Please don't copy paste posts into the box in any other fonts. I like Times New Roman or the Blackboard default. Oh, right, with discussion posts, yeah, you can type in there directly. There's nothing wrong with that. I got that wrong somehow. So is that all the emails? Okay. Thank you for the email list. Anybody else not write their name and email on there? Did anybody not have an email and so didn't write anything? I forgot to mention if you
On my Facebook username.
which is also your email, correct?
No.
I now have to check because I can't tell if he's being.
I just put it on
He's
my
just
MySpace
blowing
profile.
Okay, so he was joking. I had to verify because it sounded so believable. All right. Oh, today is the 6th? 6th? 5th?
I didn't say, I was 6.
I think it's the fifth.
It's the fifth. Today's the
5th. It's the 5th.
But
Wow, I'm really far off. So what I was just talking about is a discussion post. Those I do want you to use the default font for Blackboard and try not to copy paste those in unless you have to work from home and you don't have access to the internet and you have to do it later. Then it's fine to save it in Word and then go back and do it later. Now with the essays, census analysis, critical evaluation, and research argumentation essay, they must be in Times New Roman 12-point font, 1-inch page margins, a heading, a title, and page numbers on all but the first page. I think I had people last semester tell me that they'd like me to make that like some kind of video that's kind of a tutorial of how to ready Microsoft Word for the format that you need to use for a paper. I'll try to do that, but I can't promise that this summer. Census analysis essay must be written in first person while the other essays are in third. So I want you to talk about yourself on the first essay. I don't want you to talk about yourself at all on the next ones. And they must be turned in by 1:59 p.m. on the date listed.
You can't switch me.
Why?
The class that I'm taking right now is only offered in summer 1. And I'm about to graduate after the summer.
Say again?
They can't switch me because the class I'm taking, I only need 3 more classes.
Yeah.
And they can't switch because it's the only class she offers.
You're talking about general psych?
No, it's Atlanta Adams for a criminal class.
So you're graduating at the end of the summer, or you're graduating at the end of summer 1?
It's 2, but they can't switch my classes. She only offers it 1 semester.
Oh, so you're just going to take me in summer 2?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. All right. See you then. Do you want to keep this as a document?
I might as well. I'll use it next semester, I'm sure.
No, you won't. Everything will be the same except for the calendar. Just take next semester's. It's fine. You can have that one later. See you in a month, Scott. My apologies. Lana Adams is pretty cool, though, so that should... Oh, yeah. Criminal justice major? Yep. All right, so my apologies to the video for that aside. We just... One of our numbers has fallen. This is a hard moment for all of us. Next page. Let's talk about attendance because a summer course is very strange when it comes to attendance. Now, I will say some things, and then there will be a flexibility section right after, so listen to both. If you have an excused absences, that's things like ball games, music, drama performances. I should also mention... Oh, music is in there. Okay, good. Ag activities, sleeping in is not covered. Will be allowed to make up the work for the classes missed. So if it is something like that, you can make up the work. Student will have 1 week to make up the assignment, or the absence will not be considered excused. All absences must be pre-approved. Absences of this nature are not pre-approved will not be excused. So I need to know ahead of time if you have a situation coming up that you know you're not going to be here for some kind of school-related activity. Now with summer course attendance, I have a completely different paragraph that I put in. Each student's allotted 1 absence. All work missed for absences must be turned in the very next class. After 1 week, the work will be considered late. If you know you have to be absent, email me and tell me of your absence beforehand, no matter what the circumstances. This class only meets 10 times the entire semester. A student will be counted absent if that student's not present for 15 total minutes of a class meeting, regardless of whether it happens at the beginning, during the middle, or at the end. If a student does not arrive at the time at which class is meant to begin, that student will be considered late. 2 lates equals an absence, and at 3 absences, regardless of grade, the student will fail the course. So here's the thing about this summer attendance. So we have 10 different class meetings. In a fall and spring semester, you have 16 weeks. Well, the 16th week is final exams. You have 15 weeks of 2 class meetings, so that's 30 class meetings. So we have a third of the class meetings in this class that we do normally. So when I say you're allotted 4 absences in a fall or spring semester, the equivalency in this semester is 1. So really missing 1 class is like missing 2 weeks in the fall or spring semester, because you're missing like 10% of the course. Now when it comes to 3 absences, regardless of grade, the student will fail the course. If you think about that, that's like missing 6 weeks of a fall or spring course. So that's why it's listed like that. Now, there are some exceptions that I have been contacted about where students are having to start some school stuff in the 2nd semester, but that shouldn't affect us now. I will mention one thing that is terrible that has happened this semester. This is, in my recent memory, and I mean in like the last 5 years, the worst day that July 4th has ever fallen on for this course. July 4th this year is on a Tuesday. People who get off of work for July 4th, like I'm talking anybody who's out there, they're having to go to work on Monday, get off on Tuesday, then go back on Wednesday. Last year was like Monday we were off. The year before that was like Sunday, Saturday, and the year before that I think it was like Friday. But whenever it's Thursday, that's at least after our class. When it's Monday or Wednesday, hey, we don't have class because holiday, right? But Tuesday, like, we have to have class. Like, I have to have class. I have to do that. Like, I'm required to. So you had like a 1 in 7 chance of this being the summer where July 4th fell on a decent day, and it didn't. Like last year, it was on a Monday, and I was like, okay, guys, make sure you watch this video because it's going to cover, and actually people did have to watch a video that did the lesson instead because I still had to cover the material. But this time I'll be here, and we'll all be here. But if your family's been making plans for July 4th, either tell them to stop, or, and I'm talking like where you're going like out of town, and you're like, well, this is an emergency, we had to go to Galveston. And I'm like, the ocean was calling to us. But I do want to make a point down here below. There is a flexibility paragraph. And it says, though the grading, attendance, and other policies are as stated, and I have full capacity to follow them to the letter, I do want you to keep me informed of any extenuating circumstances that interrupt your ability to attend class or submit work on time. A lot of times people's parents make these July 4th plans months in advance, like in February, like they planned where you're going on July 4th, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you're like, I need to stay and do school. And they're like hell, I'm going to leave you at home alone on July 4th while we go somewhere and you're at home with the liquor cabinet. That's not going to happen. No way. And so you have to come, and I totally understand that from a parental standpoint. So that's why I have this flexibility thing. I will at times be willing to be flexible around these life events so that students can still be successful in such unpredictable and difficult situations. I may not be able to make other arrangements in all cases, depending on what's possible and whether I determine the situation to be worthy. And that's completely subject to my discretion as an instructor, but there's no harm in keeping me informed, so the possibility of success exists. So my parents made plans for July 4th. I can't help it. I have to go. They don't want me at home alone. I'm like, I understand. That's fine. Just watch the videos, keep up with stuff, come back. However, one time it was, Nichols, I have to go to Comic-Con. I'm cosplaying. And I was like, okay. I was like, you can't miss class for that. They're like, but I'll be gone. And I was like, but it's in Dallas. You just drive there every day. And I'm like, what? No, I can't. And they weren't understanding what I was saying, that cosplaying is not a dire circumstance. Like, parents physically removing you from the area, like, because they don't want you to be an irresponsible high school, that's different. Who? If you're driving 30 miles per hour. Oh, that's a good point. Good point.
So
Yeah.
you're saying you wouldn't skip class to go to Comic-Con?
No.
Oh my god.
Really? I really misjudged you.
I feel like the fact that all your kids would skip
I've gotten to a point where British literature is actually more interesting to me than comics. Which I don't know if I ever thought that would come, but it's here. I really do love this stuff. So it's bound to happen. Some people are going to be missing. If you miss a day, even if it's one day, I would like everybody to email me and let me know you're going to be gone. If it's because you're sick, which summer colds, that sucks. But still, if you get sick, email me, let me know. If your parents take you out of town for July 4th, email me, let me know. If you trip and fall and hurt your knee on the way out the door, email me, let me know. I need to know just whatever these circumstances are that you're not here, because that's going to that's always going to make me, here's a trick, okay? It's a trick you're performing against me. Does anybody watch Big Brother or Survivor? Every summer I watch Big Brother, and I will be soon. I kept up with, but I didn't watch it because I didn't have time because the wife is pregnant, baby's coming. I even watched Big Brother Canada. There's a Canadian version. On Big Brother, people have to do certain things and keep people informed and make certain social moves in order to make things better for them. Like, you'd think you wouldn't have to. You think you could just wield your power when you have it, and then that's fine. But just sending me an email and say, Nichols, I'm sick today. I can't come to class. It makes me, inside my head go, this person's responsible. You could be going to the movies instead. I wouldn't know. But you said, Nichols, I'm sick. I can't come to class. I'm like, look at this person. They're responsible. That's a good kid. Letting me know. Wait, nice job. And so I like that person now more because they're responsible, even though they may have done something not what they said they did. It's because but I knew they wouldn't be here. What was it the Joker said in The Dark Knight? He says, everything. No, not that one. He says, you want to see this pencil? That doesn't apply at all. It was a really great quote, but yeah, it's very tempting, too tempting not to mention. But he said, as long as everything goes according to plan, nobody panics. So it's like if I say what was he said? He said if I say that a bus full of gangbangers is going to be blown up tomorrow, nobody bats an eye. But if I say one little old mayor is everybody lose their mind. Basically, the mayor is in charge of the rules, and if you take out the guy who's in charge of the rules, because everybody doesn't like the unexpected to happen. If you give somebody expectations, if you say I'm going to be gone and you're gone, I'm like, oh, you're there. They knew what they were doing. They're responsible. It's almost like turning in work. It's almost like getting something in on time. You just told me you wouldn't be here on time. So as long as you let me know when you won't be here, that's going to be your best chance, I think, of being able to pass this course and, have me think of you as a responsible person. Because the human element, despite you not wanting to believe so, does make a difference, maybe not make great grades in my class, but it will make a difference definitely in other classes. I mean, you ever just felt like there was a teacher who just hated you?
Yes.
There are little buffers you can do to try to make that easier. Now, I'm not saying people should have to. I'm just saying, maybe you didn't inform that person in time and they just got this idea about you. I don't know. All right, let's go on. Withdrawal policy. Oh, by the way, I'm not saying that I will make emotional decisions like that. I know that the possibility as a human exists, and I think I'm objective and rational all the time. But in the case that I'm not, it's good to try to do those little things that will help make you look good in my eyes. So withdrawal, if you stop coming we'll give you a grade of F. We don't drop you. So that did happen one summer semester. Somebody just stopped coming and didn't inform me why, and they received an F. And that's a lot harder to get rid of on your transcript, I think, than a withdrawal. June 22nd is the last date to drop the course and receive an automatic W. Do y'all have June 22nd listed there?
April 13th.
Change that to June 22nd.
We can't do that.
Huh?
We're not allowed to drop out.
Yeah, we are.
What?
We have to pay for it now.
We can't drop a course.
You can drop a course.
So you can fail as long as you can fail for free, but drop for money. Is that right?
No, if you fail, you can
Ooh, you can fail, you gotta pay. Ooh, yes. By the way, the date, guys, was June 22nd. June 22nd is the last date to drop the course.
I don't even know why I'm writing this.
Oh yeah. It's just good to know in case. You never know, some bad life thing could pop up. There is, of course, a limit on drop classes. You can only drop 6 across your entire public school time. So even if you drop as a high school student, I think doing dual credit, that drop could count against you later for your public institution drops. Which, I mean, you're not all going to go to public institution. I'm like so cognizant now, even saying like if you go to a public institution, because that counselor on that daggum show said, "You sure you don't want to go to a state school?" And I'm like, now I feel like go to Baylor if you want to, guys. Go to Baylor. What was it she said? I want to go to Columbia. And he's like, "You sure you don't want to go to a state school?" Which is partly not even his fault because he came from a rougher school, so he had to tell people all the time, maybe realistic expectations. It's such a crazy show. I shouldn't have watched it in 3 days. Now, email response time. If an email is sent Monday to Thursday, expect a response within 24 hours. The email was sent Friday to Sunday. Expect an answer on Monday. Summer's going to be a little bit weirder. I only have you guys. You're the only students I've got. So I might be more likely to, reply quicker, I think, in the summertime. But then I also have the baby, and that's new. So, cut me some baby slack, hopefully.
So it's kind of good that we're your only class.
Yeah, that's going to help you out a lot, I think. The baby came at a perfect time. Like, literally, like, the day after school was over. Like, and grades were posted. Like, it was Saturday, Sunday, baby born. It was perfect. So y'all can work the date out yourself. Technical difficulties. Computer access is available at the following PJC locations. Paris at the Learning Center and AS 150. Greenville Center Library and the Silver Spring Center Library. So I'm assuming you live closest to Greenville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if you needed computer access, it's down here. Additionally, I don't know about you guys. Y'all live mostly around Quinlan, I think. Is the school giving you any computer access time, or they just close for the summer and forget you?
During the summer, no.
During the summer, we just spend for
Does Quinlan have a library?
No.
Yeah, I didn't figure.
No,
We hate the smell of books.
we got the Walmart.
Is there computers there too?
Books are for commies.
I've always been really spoiled living in Commerce because Commerce had, not computer-wise, but in terms of because they were all locked out by student ID names and stuff. You had to have a student ID number. But I was always really spoiled living in Commerce because there was the public library downtown, and there's also this 5-story mega library right in the center of town, and so I just grew up around books. I could love books and have books, and access to computers has been. Sorry about that, guys. Now, basic computer requirements as a general rule, a computer manufacturer within the last 5 years is pretty adequate. In addition to the basic system requirements, some courses may require a flash drive, webcam, common application software such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and specialized software. You'll have to have Word for my class, but that's it. If you wanted to calculate your grades pretty easily later, you might want Excel. While you're a student, you can get a pretty sweet deal, I think, on Microsoft Office, and it doesn't just include the basic stuff that usually costs more, like the 4 items like PowerPoint, Excel, Word. What's the other one? Outlook. But it also includes, I think, Microsoft Access, Microsoft Publisher, which will help you do newsletters and things like that, magazines. I think there's one more.
Yeah, it's like an SQL. It's like database or something like that.
I think that's Access.
Is that Access?
But I don't know. There's one more thing that you can also get. And you get a pretty sweet deal as a student. I think as a teacher, I paid this doesn't sound like a very good deal, I guess, maybe to you right now. But I think it was I paid as a teacher $60 for 4 years of Microsoft Office, which usually you pay $100 a year. Like, you can pay $9.99 a month for Microsoft Office access, which adds us like $120 a year, which is ridiculous. But I got a pretty sweet deal just by having like a PJC email address. And so if you have your drag email address and it's working and you know how to check it, then you could also get cheap access to it. Additionally, you can use things like Google Drive. You can use things like Adobe, Apache OpenOffice. I will tell you, though, that those programs are a little bit more wonky and more difficult to figure out how to get things submitted correctly. But as long as you can find a way to get any program's file into a PDF, you can submit it on Blackboard and it should show up mostly correctly. Other file types are risky. But if you can export to PDF from whatever you're using, oh yeah, many of you probably have Pages, because you have like there's an Apple computer right there. I happen to think that Apple computers are the worst for like typing papers and things. Like they're fun to use, but in terms of like getting things done.
I use Google.
Yeah, it's common.
So wait, so you want papers turned into PDF only or DocX?
Oh, DocX is fine. If you have a Microsoft Word, turn it in DocX. Right. I know that DocX is what it handles the best. PDF is what it handles, I think, equally the best.
I call it
Docs. I heard the funniest joke on Friends the other day. My wife and I were doing stuff with the baby, and we laughed hysterically just hearing this in the background. Phoebe was like, she became a masseuse that was like a salaried masseuse, so she was making better money. And she's like, they were like, she usually follows her dreams. They were like, why are you, getting into this job, or you're not following your dreams anymore, being a musician? Now you're like being like a paid employee. And she's like, I'm sorry, it's got great benefits, and the pay is really good, and they've got a 401k. I was like, we both it took a second for both my wife and I to process 401k, and then we went 401k. It was pretty genius. I know, it just came on like a week ago, right? Yeah, so that was, you watched the same time I did.
Actually, I watched it on Netflix, but then you're behind.
They have that on Netflix?
Yeah, they have all of it.
Actually, I may have watched it on Netflix. I think my wife just turned it on and just had it playing. Because it's very neutral. Or it could have been on MTV. I don't know. Let's see. Financial aid, that doesn't really affect a lot of you right now, although there is a bill right now that people are trying to pass to let dual credit students use financial aid. I mean, even then, I think that all of you are, your school's paying for it, right?
What would we use it for?
That's on site. Well,
You couldn't, but like, say Lone Oak, they all pay for themselves, I believe. Or half? Oh.
Yeah,
By the way, Quinlan, it may, a lot of y'all say, I think a lot of y'all said, oh, Quinlan school sucks or something like that. Like most students at most schools say our school sucks. Yet when they go to the football games, it's go Panthers. What is it y'all call your town again? It's not Q Town.
Dirty Q.
Dirty Q, that's what it is. I always love that one, it's hilarious.
how did you
I don't even remember where I was going with that. Oh, but you're very lucky in that that y'all have a school that pays for your dual credit college attendance. That's so rare. Like,
we were one of the first schools to do it too.
I saw two hands. What?
How did you know our mascot? He's had Quinlan classes forever
Oh,
now.
yeah, I've had it forever. Yeah, and from Commerce High School, we used to play Quinlan, so I knew that Commerce was the Tigers, Quinlan was the Panthers. Yeah, a long time ago. I was so lucky.
I was distracted by the fact that he knew our mascot.
Somebody knows?
It's all, it has to be a secret. You can't let anybody else know.
I actually happened to be there when I was in 8th grade. No, yeah, when I was in 8th grade, we went to state, didn't win. 10th grade, we went to state and didn't win. And when my senior year, they won state in football. Like, it was cool being in high school around that time. Like, the band people hated it though, except me. I was the only one watching the football games. Everybody in band hated having to go to 6 more games.
Yes.
They were like, oh, playoffs, so stupid. I just want to go home. And I was like, this is exciting. It's so ironic, but band people usually don't want football players to do well. What? Yeah. What?
Especially whenever.
You are in band? Currently? Oh, okay. And in commerce? Music program? I had a friend who was in that. Here we go. Speaking of disruptive behavior. Hopefully this will never become an issue, but in the case of disruptive behavior in a student, the student will be asked to leave for the initial disruption. Should disruption occur again, the student will be dropped from the course. Generally speaking, I reserve this for like if a fight breaks out, but I've never had that happen before, and I hope not to. I don't deal well with confrontation, and I'd prefer not to have to deal with it at all. Generally speaking, if things get like chatty in class, I mean, I don't like to do this, but usually I'll call out the group that's chatty, or I'll say, do you have a question, or something like that, and then everybody knows, okay, I'll get back on topic. Because it's very hard for me to think when I hear chatty stuff just happening. And I'm really bad, too, with whispering. Like, whispering is almost as loud to me as shouting. It's just a weird thing with my ears. Right. Like, I can hear that. It's not like it hurts me. It's just I can hear it, and it's distracting. Cell phones. Cell phones can be disruptive. Keep in mind, if you're on your cell phone all the time, I'll be able to tell, but I'm not going to call you out on it. I mean, this is college, so if you want to be on your cell phone instead of in class, I mean, I can't stop you, but I'll know. And it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be like, nobody just looks down like this, or, nobody's arms move like that when, I'm just like, what's going on? Like, you're on your phone, obviously. It's like people think that their arms are completely still when they text, but there's just something rigid and weird about it that I could tell if you're on your phone, generally speaking. Or like women who put their purses on the table. Like, obviously. But I need it like right here to cover this phone. So don't get on your phone, I would suggest. Just pay attention to what we're doing here. Main reasons, because it'll just keep me from slowly hating you over the course of the semester, which could affect your grade. Let's see. Food and drink. No food and drink in class. Only exception is water in a bottle. Although I will have this every day. The caffeine helps keep me, since the baby's been born, alive. Yeah. Now, academic honesty requirements. In the pursuit of learning, students are expected to engage in honest academic endeavors to the highest degree of honor and integrity. By registering and taking this course, the officially enrolled student declares he or she will be the author for all work submitted for the course. So you will have written everything. Allowing another student to complete assignments for you constitutes fraud and academic dishonesty, so you must do your own work, not farm that out to somebody else. Submitting an assignment already submitted in another course, and that's in whole or in part, even if it was the same course but in a different semester, is not permitted. So, for example, if you wrote your research paper in 1302 on Dover Beach, and you're like, oh, wow, Dover Beach is also in this class, I'll just turn in the same research paper. That's not submitted even though it's your work, or that's not permitted even though it's your work you're submitting. Students who are found to engage in dishonesty through such activities as cheating on exams, plagiarism, and that's saying that somebody else's work is yours by taking that work and like copy pasting it and putting it in your stuff. General cheating or collusion, and that's with your copying other students' work or allowing other students to copy one's work, will be referred to the appropriate college official for disciplinary action. Additionally, and that's regardless of whether somebody knows or doesn't know that that's the case. So you protect your stuff. Additionally, submitting papers already submitted in another course is not permitted. If plagiarism, collusion, or any of the aforementioned behaviors come to the attention of the instructor, and that's whether the student committed an infraction intentionally or unintentionally. So if you're taking a Scantron exam, for example, and I have 4 different people's Scantrons all match, and maybe one of those people says, the other 3 say, like, I didn't cheat, and then you say, I didn't cheat either, and like you really didn't cheat, but it turns out you figure out in your head what happened was you just weren't covering your answers and everybody else is looking off of yours. If they all 3 deny and you deny too, I can't possibly tell who's right. I might have an inkling. I might say, well, this student always turns work in on time. These students still haven't. Yet they all got the same answers as the person who's turned in all their work. This is fishy. I still don't know for sure who cheated off of who. So I've got to have the same punishment for all 4 of those people. you know, because that's the only fair way for me to do it. So cover your answers, hold your work close, keep it secrets, keep it safe. Gollum, Lord of the Rings. No, that's not right, is it? Keep it secret, keep it... No, Gandalf. Gollum. Okay. So if those things happen, I'll implement the appropriate penalties, such as a 0 for the assignment. So you might not get a chance to revise that if that's the case. Elimination of revision opportunities. I just literally said that. An F for the course. Or referral to disciplinary committee. Failure to utilize MLA parenthetical documentation for sources, and that's including borrowing or using information without giving credit to the source, will constitute plagiarism. However, I'm a little bit more open on that, and I'll let you revise that. Like if you just quoted something and forgot to put the quotes around it, I'll let you turn that back in and give me the quotes with the citation. I just understand that's usually, I forgot. That's fine. Now keep in mind, if you don't include a works cited or internal citation on a research assignment, technically that's plagiarism and will be given an automatic 0 until such items are supplied. So, you know, think about it. If you turn in a paper that's got internal citations but no works cited, I'm like, I don't really know what they're referencing, so it could be plagiarism, so I don't know, so I can't grade it, so I just give it a 0. So any paper that's supposed to have research, which is only the research paper. Once we get to the research paper, if you turn it in without the works cited or internal citation, or both, I'll give you a 0 and tell you to please submit it with the stuff, because I will not grade it until that is all there. Now, related statements, I do have to read the next 2 verbatim, so I will do that. As an open-door community college, Paris Junior College provides a comprehensive experience meeting the educational and cultural needs of all students and citizens of Paris and the service area. It is assumed that all students in this class will receive a high school diploma or a GED. Therefore, instruction will be at the high school level or above, including both difficulty and maturity. Despite the fact you haven't, most of you graduated high school and actually probably won't until you graduated college, which is strange. You will be treated as though you do have like a high school degree in terms of the difficulty of this work. ADA statement. Services for students with disabilities are coordinated by the Counseling and Advising Center. The institution is committed to assisting qualified students as completely as possible. Services include the arrangement for accommodations and services to allow equal access to education opportunities for students with disabilities. Students with disabilities are encouraged to contact a counselor or advisor from the Counseling and Advising Center by calling 903-454-9333 Greenville to begin the process, or arrange an appointment to begin the process anyway. So, let us move on from here. And what to expect in this course, you've seen me talk about some of these things in the grading portion, but I haven't explained what they are yet. A little bit later, I will be going over each one of these. I'll be going over each one of these in a little more detail. Basically, what I'll do today is after we've gone through the syllabus and gone through the course calendar, I'm going to assign each one of the essay assignments. I'm mostly going to briefly talk about each one of them. So I'll talk about the first essay first, and maybe later as we get closer to like the critical evaluation. It's really weird. We're going to have like an essay submitted, I believe. Oh gosh, I'll have to look, but I think we actually have an essay submitted like this Sunday. It's pretty quick. And the reason I'm trying to get them done quick is because I know some people, despite the fact that July 4th is on a Tuesday, will be going somewhere for July 4th, and so I want people to have their essays turned in before July 4th comes and you forget that I exist for a period of many hours. So I'm going to talk about the essays here at the end of the class, but the last thing I'll do is show you how to do the discussion posts and quizzes, because those are going to be the most immediate things for you before the next class. You'll have to do a discussion post and quiz. In fact, a couple discussion posts and quizzes before the next class. Bless you. So with the Blackboard discussion posts, here's how they work. You'll log into Blackboard and discuss the upcoming class's readings with your fellow classmates. So strangely, like the first reading is Beowulf. You'll get onto Blackboard and you'll discuss Beowulf with your classmates before we've ever talked about it in class. So we have not discussed it yet. You'll have read Beowulf and just on your own have come up with some thoughts and opinions about it. You'll log onto Blackboard, discuss it. So what you'll do is first make an original post where you give your thoughts about Beowulf. Then you'll have 2 response posts for every original post you make. So you make your own post about, oh, here's what I think about Beowulf, or here's what I think about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. By the way, my personal opinion, Sir Gawain's much better. If you're like, well, I want to write about one that I enjoy. Well, probably the one you'll enjoy will be Sirgawain, because it's actually fairly decent to me. Whereas Beowulf kind of reads more like old mythology a little bit, like reading like the Iliad. And you'll give an original post on your thoughts and opinions. Then it'll let you see other people's posts after you've made your original post. So if you're thinking, I'll just log on there and look at what the other people are saying first, then I'll say something, it won't let you do that. You'll have to make an original post first. Then it'll let you see other people's stuff. You'll have to reply to 2 different people and what they're saying. So like give your thoughts on what they've said. And then your grades or your stuff will be released to me to be graded. So I have to have all 3 posts submitted, your original and 2 replies, in order to be able to grade it. If you've only done 2, it won't tell me you're done. If you've only done 1, it won't tell me you're done. If you've done 3, it will. So make sure you do all 3 each time. So I'll go over that a little bit later. And the word count on those, I want 100 words for original posts and 50 words apiece for the 2 replies. So basically every time you're doing 200 words total of writing for each discussion post set. And for reference, the synthesis analysis paragraph below is around the correct length for an original post, so 100 words. So if you look down below at the bottom of the page, you can see about 6 lines. Also, Blackboard, I'll show you in a little bit, shows you how many words you've typed, which is helpful. And 50 words is like the midterm final paragraph, which is on the 2nd page. It's only a couple or 3 lines, or 3 or 4 lines. So your replies don't have to be nearly as detailed as your original posts. Next, Blackboard quizzes, there'll be multiple choice. There's a place on the sidebar that says discussion posts, so that's where you go for discussion posts, and a place that says quizzes, that's where you'll go for quizzes. I'll show you all of this in a little bit. In-class discussion participation, that's just please talk about the literary works in class. That's what I'm looking for. That's the most exciting part for me is when you all have opinions on stuff and then you talk about it. And the discussion posts we do online kind of help us read the stuff beforehand so we know what we're talking about, so it actually makes it fun for me. Synthesis analysis paper isn't too difficult. In fact, I'm assigning it a little bit, so I'll just talk about it then. The critical evaluation is more difficult than the synthesis analysis, and it's objective. The midterm and final are Scantron, so bring 1 to both. So you'll need a Scantron, I think on the 5th or 6th day of class, and then like the 10th or 11th day of class. But I think there's only 10 classes. I don't know. We'll get to that in the calendar part. The research argumentation essay, and I'll go ahead and mention this now in case I forget to later. In fact, let's do like just a real quick. I'll tell you what each paper is about, basically. Synthesis analysis paper is like an expanded discussion post. I want you to give your thoughts and opinions about a literary work. And I also want you to look at what happened in your own life, experiences you've had that have made you develop that opinion. So if you say, I really liked Beowulf and how he's a warrior, you say maybe this becomes because, my dad is a cop and I respect like the warriors in our society. That's like my experiences and the things I've gone through have shaped how I feel about this literary work. That's what I want you to do on synthesis analysis. Critical evaluation is I want you to take one tiny piece of the literary work, like a phrase, a line, if it's really big, like maybe a few lines, and I want you to break that down like you're dissecting an organism and looking at, well, what all did the liver do for the body? And you're like showing, well, it helps this system in the body and this system and this system. And I want you taking this piece of literary work and saying, this is how this literary work is extremely important to the entirety of the whole literary work and how it creates meaning. That, I hope, sounds a lot more complicated than the first one, as it should be. Now, the research paper, what you do is you're going to try to be, every time you read a work in this class, you're going to be trying to prepare for that research paper. Okay? What you need to do is you have to compare one of the literary works in the course to some real-world situation problem that we have going on in the world today. This would have to be something more complicated than an obviousness. So, for example, I wouldn't want somebody to say, hey, I could compare the problems in 13 Reasons Why to the problems in modern-day suicide. Because that's literally what the show is about. But I have had in the past, there was a poem that we're not reading anymore called The Lotus Eaters. talking about how Odysseus, they went to this island of the Lotus Eaters in the Odyssey, him and his men. Odysseus ended up leaving, but I think most of his men ended up staying because there was this flower there called the lotus, and they would all eat it, and they didn't want to do anything except eat those flowers, man. These flowers are awesome. Let's just stay here. He's like, but we have families. We should go back to our families. They're like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And these people compared the lotus eaters to the problems of like modern day narcotics like meth and drug addiction. So lotus eaters isn't technically about drug addiction, right? It's about Odysseus and his men eating flowers, but you can make that comparison by looking at how they're similar. So I want you to always be thinking, what's going on in the real world today? What problem do we have that I could be comparing to any of these literary works? Now, if you don't know anything that's happening in the real world, this can be a problem. By the way, don't vote later because I don't care about your vote if you don't know anything about the world and what's going on in it. That's not true. Go vote when you're old enough. What was it? There was a movie or TV show one time I saw where like a person got a fake ID so they could vote. Not so they could drink.
That's The Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it was fantastic. I was like, that sounds like something a nerd would do. I'm not even that. I was so jealous in that moment. I was like, I'm not nerdy enough because I would never do that. Like, risk my hide to vote. Maybe I should be. So just be thinking about that all semester long. Like, how could you relate the literature to a real world situation? And it's got to be some problem that's ongoing. I don't want you to say, well, it relates to Hitler. It's like, well, we fixed that. Hitler's over. Now, if you can find somewhere else where a Hitler-like situation's going on, where we have some fascist leader who's doing bad things and keeping people under control and exterminating others, go ahead. But if that's not the case, don't do it. Now, we're going to have a research presentation the last day of class before the final. It'll probably bleed into the final day as well, but it's very easy, very simple. Last semester, everybody in this class, the average grade was on the research presentation 100. So I think every single person who did a research presentation in the dual credit classes last semester got a 100. I think there was one presentation last semester I did not give a 100 to, and I remember it. I will not recount that now. We'll wait till later. Now, note on the assignment due dates in Blackboard, I believe I've done a very good job on Blackboard of fixing all the due dates, making sure that they match up with the calendar here, and that the times have been changed to 11:59 p.m. instead of 10 like I used to. All assignments are to be turned in by midnight on the dates listed on the calendar of classes in the syllabus. Within Blackboard, however, I may have due dates listed as 10 p.m. sometimes, and this may not happen for everyone. What now?
I hate it when you do that.
Yeah, I've tried to change it all this time since y'all told me it doesn't even notify you ahead of time, so it's not like it helps at all. Now, the reason for this is so blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. I don't want to do it anymore. But if you see that a due date's different than what I have in the syllabus, rest assured it's not going to be counted late. It'll only be counted late if it's legitimately late, like past midnight. That counts as late. If you're like, but Nichols, I got there at 11:50 so I could start submitting it because I got finished at 11:45 and it's before the time, but my computer was messing up, and it's like, yeah, but you should have done it before then. Responsible students don't wait till 11:45.
I beg your pardon?
What?
He named me.
I did not. I gave no names.
Hayden.
Oh.
So.
Now, revision. Let's talk about revision next. There's this whole speech about America and the land of the American dream, but I'm not going to go through that. On all the essays, the census analysis essay, the critical evaluation essay, and the research argumentation essay, you'll be allowed to revise. What I mean by that is not like maybe some of your high school or middle school teachers said, well, yes, you can revise this essay for 10 extra points. And so you would write this really crappy essay and get like a 40 the first time. And then you revised it, and you're like, wow, this is like a 100 paper now. This is fantastic. And you give it back to the teacher. You're like, here you go. I'm really proud of this. This is like a great. And she's like, wow, this would have got a 100 the first time. 50. Because you get plus 10. You're like, what? So I don't like even the idea of that being a possibility. So for me, when you revise a paper, well, I always give you feedback. and I say fix this, this, and this, or you're missing this, or this needs work, or I'll give you lots of comments on what needs to be fixed. You can then go in, fix the paper, and whatever I would have given the grade the first time will become your new grade. Meaning, like, if you got like a 60 the first time because you were way off topic, and I'm like, but you can fix it, when you redo the paper, and if I go, this time I feel like I would give that paper a 90, then you go from a 60 to a 90. So really the sky is the limit on the grades, and that's why I always say to students to like agonize over that first submission. There's really no reason to fully agonize, because whatever you submit, if you're like, I don't even know if this idea works, but I'm like 80% done with it, let's just throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. You ever heard that metaphor?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was like old people metaphor. Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, it is an old people metaphor because back in the day, the way you test spaghetti when it's ready. True.
Oh.
It was.
I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, even if you did it.
No. All right, so, well, you could all just take it and run it at the flagpole and see if anybody salutes it. That's a really old one.
Yeah.
So you submit it, even if you're not fully happy with it. I'll tell you what's wrong with it. Then you can get comments, go back, fix it based on those comments, and get the grade you want. So that you don't have to feel like every time you write a paper, it's permanent. It could always be subject to change. I would caution you against, though, the only time I would say ever turn in like just a paragraph, you're like, oh crap, I don't even know, I've only got a paragraph done. If you want me to actually read that paragraph and give you comments on it, you'll have to say something in the feedback, or otherwise I'll assume that you just turned it in to have something in on time, and you plan to turn the rest in later. I won't even grade something that's like a paragraph or two. I'll be like, this isn't finished. Finish it and I'll grade it, and I'll give you a 0. So please say in the comment box, whether your feedback box, whether you want me to provide comments on that little tiny thing, and I will, or what specific comments you want, and I'll give them. Yes?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you're just doing fidgety things. Let's see. Any questions about revision, how that works? Okay.
I haven't.
Let's see. English 23-22 achievement rewards. That's down at the bottom of the revision thing. So I have achievements in the class. So if you do certain behaviors, it'll result in getting certain achievements. The reason I have this is because back when I had time to play video games, I played Xbox and noticed that I was like really into getting achievements. Like, I never, when I played Minecraft, have any desire to fish. Yet you get an achievement if you build a fishing pole and go fishing and catch a fish. So I did that. And I was like, wow, what a waste of my time. But I did it because I got an achievement on my Xbox and they gave me 5 gamer score points. And I'm like, why do I care about this? And so I thought maybe people will care about that stuff in class. So I tied behaviors to actually good bonuses. So I also named them after Star Wars characters. The Han. If you miss no more than one class, I'll use only your 5 highest quiz grades this semester out of the 10 quizzes we take. With the Fin, you submit all 3 essays on time, and I'll use only your 5 highest discussion posts. So that's a good way to knock that out. Is you can, everybody's going to miss 1 or 2 here and there. It'd be good to have ways to get those couple to drop. The Kylo you get if you acquire both the Han and the Fin achievements. So if you knock out both Han and Fin, you get the Kylo. And I'll add 10 points to your critical evaluation essay. Now with the Ray, you have to submit all your quizzes and discussion posts. And if your final average rounds up to the next letter grade if ending in 7, 8, or 9. So if you do submit all your quizzes and discussion posts, granted it's not going to help you that much if you get some drops, but that means that if, say, you have like an 87 in the class because your essay grades haven't been that hot and you don't really want to revise, but you really needed an A because that's what your parents want, then your 87 will round up to a 90, and you've got an A. So that's helpful.
Should we change that to 6, 7, 8, 9?
No. However, I will do it for every letter grade. So if it's like a 67 or 77 or 87, it'll count it. However, most people, I've never rounded from 67 to a 70, I don't think.
I just wanted, like, more.
I want more.
Just in case
I want more possibilities. No, I think most people are generally fine. Let's see. Course updates and communication. If by some chance class gets canceled, go sign up for getrave.com. Dragon alerts. It'll text you when there's some kind of like a storm that closes the school. Yes, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was about the discussion. Last semester, we had like more discussion posts than we actually had to do. Do we have to do them all this time, or is it like more?
You do have to do them all, because I actually have 11 discussion posts and 9 quizzes. So I'm going to count discussion post 0 as your 10th quiz. So you'll get 1 free 100 quiz, because the discussion post 0 is very easy, and I give completion grades on discussion posts.
So you're not dropping any discussion posts?
No, I am dropping. I'm just not dropping naturally. So for example, last semester if you did 13 discussion posts and you did them all, you actually...
Got 3 extra points.
Yeah, you got 3 extra points, or I could have decided, which I did not, to just count the top 10. This time, though, in order to get any to drop, you have to do the achievements in order to make that work. So I'm not going to drop any naturally because I've got just enough to fill the points.
Okay, so like...
Yeah. So I'll mention this again later, or try to, but you have 9 quizzes, and the 10th quiz grade will be a discussion post. And I don't know if actually that might not be true this semester. I know in one of the semesters it's true that there are 11 discussion posts, 9 quizzes, but I don't remember if it's this one or the other one. Yes.
You played Minecraft on the Xbox.
Yes.
First guy, so you shouldn't have done that? Trash? To be honest.
I don't like to have to build the things on my own, like the crafting. I don't like to craft things. I like to just have it be a recipe that's pre-made and I just hit enter. It's fine.
No one cares about you.
I also hate mods and don't think they should exist. Nichols canceled classes. On occasion, I'll need to cancel classes, but that generally won't happen. So just make sure you have the right email on file with me on this list, or you check your Dragon mail. Email is the best way to contact me, so I'll use it quite a bit. If you don't have an email, get one. If you have one and the name's inappropriate, change it, because someday you'll have to... Imagine you apply for a job later and they always want your email now, and you've got something like Turd Burglar is like your email address, and somebody's gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna hire Turd Burglar. No, they're not gonna. You're not gonna they're gonna say, hey bro, maybe you should change your email before you apply to the next job. They're just gonna not hire you, and then you'll have to figure out on your own like what eventually it was. QR codes, those are in the syllabus. You can get apps to read those. It's those weird funky codes. Pretty helpful on the email one because it'll take you straight to your email program and open an email for you. Contacting me one more time. I should say always include your name and specifically worded concern in your emails, whether to myself, other professors, future employers, etc., anybody else important in your life. If I receive an email that reads, it says right here, the letter R, are we doing anything today? I have work. And there's no name attached, no address to me specifically, no intelligent question or concern. That's the easiest way to lose the respect of your instructor and slowly start to hate you over the course, isn't it? Yeah, so I hate those emails too. And it's always just like there's no name on it, and somebody says, are we doing anything today? And I'm like, first of all, who are you? Second of all, what class are you in? Now, granted, that's not a huge problem in the summertime. Actually, it is. I have multiple classes. It's just one is on completely online and one's here. It's actually a class you can't even get into if you want to try. Isn't that weird? Now you're curious, but I won't tell you. Useful QR codes on the next page, which you may not need the very last one, but it's there anyway. Now let's talk about the calendar of classes. So skip over to that. So it says to complete all assignments according to the due dates listed below, and it says all assignments must be turned in on Blackboard with the exception of the midterm and final exams, which will happen in class. It says do not do any discussion posts or papers over any of the works in blue. And you might think that that's a little confusing because what you have here in front of you is a black and white syllabus. But I'm going to hook this up to the projector for the rest of the class while I talk. And I'm going to keep recording, but it's just going to be I'll be sitting. And I'm sorry I'm sitting, but I really don't like to sit and talk. But here we are. Check the camera, make sure that I'm still on it. That way it's not awkward later. Okay. And then I'll hook the monitor up. All right, so if you were to look at this on Blackboard, do y'all need that to be bigger? A little bit? It's as big as I can get. So it, past the edges of the page, it's going to be hard to navigate. Additionally, there will need to be a tiny square right down here with my face in it the whole time this is.
That's cool.
So it's really weird. If you watch this video later, you'll look and see that right now I'm looking at the calendar of the syllabus. Hey, calendar.
Rick, if you're wrong.
I'm not. Or I'm looking at the side of the screen. Hi, side of the screen, if you're not the calendar. I'm already bored with that. So anytime you see something in blue, don't do any writing about that. And I have my reasons. That'll be true the second semester as well. But so with this calendar, it breaks it down by day what we're going to do. So today is Monday, June 5th, so you can see quite a bit on the agenda for today. Review the course and syllabus, complete info sheets. What are those? We don't have those yet. I'll assign Blackboard discussion posts, the Blackboard quizzes, the synthesis analysis essay, the critical evaluation essay, and the research argumentation essay. So there will not be like full, huge discussions of how to do each one of those all today. I'll just be basically telling you about it, telling you the description, and showing you where the sample essays are. Going to review paper formatting and do talk about Blackboard a little bit as well. So it's color coded, not just in the blue, but in other colors as well. Anytime you have assignments being talked about, like essays, generally that's going to be in purple. So you can see down here that the synthesis analysis essay is due Sunday, June 11th, so that's in 6 days. Then the critical evaluation, which is the second essay, is due 13 days from now, which is like basically 2 weeks. Then you have the planning for the research paper due in 2.2 weeks. And then the research paper itself is due 3 weeks from today, basically. Pretty close. Which that might seem kind of odd, but in a summer semester, we don't really have any other options. So I just hand you all the. This will strangely be easier for some of you, but harder for others. Those of you who always spend a lot of time preparing, it might be more difficult. Those of you who procrastinate and do everything the last minute, this might be a much easier class for you. You're like, hey, I got 3 weeks to do what I usually do in 3 hours, which is probably not true. So the reason I wanted to do this, I will continue to accept, and I'm not going to count them late, the research paper. A little past this, but I wanted, if you look here, Monday, July 3rd comes, then Wednesday, July 5th, and I wanted most people to have felt some kind of pressure to get their research paper in, because I know there's going to be some of you who, yeah, you're going to get it on time, June 25th, no big deal. Some people are going to be going, okay, I tried, I couldn't make it happen, and you get it in like June 28th. Or some people were like getting it done like a week later. But I really wanted people to try to be done before July 4th, because something weird is going to happen in all of our lives. I don't know what it is. But that Tuesday, July 4th, is going to make some people's parents go, you have to go to school. Some people's parents go, we already made this trip. We can't change it. So we have some people showing up, some people not, and it's going to make things wicked and wacky that week, and I don't even know how. So in preparation for the unexpected, and me trying to expect the unexpected, Big Brother fans, I've done that. So I will accept things a little past their due dates, probably a week past their due dates, and not count off as a result of the weird scheduling. But just keep that in mind. Those things come fairly quickly. And I don't think it's as quick the second semester. Is there any questions about the essays and their due dates that I just talked about before I move on? So I do see some quizzical looks.
It's just my face.
It's just my face. Puzzled expressions. Twisted countenances. Frizzled facades. All over the place. All right, let's move on then. The rest of the syllabus is color-coded. You'll see the blue ones fairly quickly. You'll notice that Canterbury Tales I don't have people write about the general prologue because everything I get is, I think that they're talking about going on a trip and it's describing people, but I'm bored. So I said, forget that this time. Just everybody write about Wife of Bass prologue and tale and the partners prologue and tale because they're the more interesting things. And if I had to be even more honest than that, the tale is the most interesting thing in almost... Well, actually, no, the Wife of Bass prologue is more interesting than her tale, though her tale is easy to understand. And the partner's tale is the most important part of the prologue and tale of the partner as well. Yeah.
So we're gonna have 2 discussion posts due each week, and they're gonna fall on Tuesday and Sunday.
Yes. As you'll see, everything is generally color-coded where red means stop here, do this first. Green means go, yellow means slow down, red means stop again. So always do them in the order you see them and do red before you do green or yellow. And do green before you do yellow, just like you see actual lights operate on stoplights.
Really?
Indeed. If you don't know that, then...
Get off the road.
Yeah, get off the road. Wait for self-driving cars. So Tuesday, so this is tomorrow night, by 11:59 p.m., we'll have a quiz 0 over the syllabus. So there'll be one quiz that's over the syllabus. This is the only time you'll hear this mentioned because it's not in the syllabus, so keep track of this right now. This semester, because of the summer semester, it's a little tighter, it's harder. I realized everybody might benefit if I added 2 opportunities for every quiz. So you'll get 2 chances on every quiz, assuming you start it in time. If you get on at 11:45 and try to do the quiz and you run out of time to do another one, then I'm not going to open it for you again to do your second attempt. That's just laziness. But if you go at like 6 p.m. and you do your quiz and you're like, crap, 50. And you look at the questions that were talked about, go back to the text and look a little bit and say, oh, there it is. Then you can go back and do the quiz again and maybe have a better chance of getting a higher score. And it's going to keep the highest of the 2 grades. So if by some chance, and this does happen, it gets worse from attempt 1 to attempt 2, your grade will go up. It will not, wait, that made no sense. If it goes down from attempt 1 to attempt 2, it'll stay at least the same as that highest opportunity you had. So you'll do the quiz over the syllabus. Then, preferably, you'll do day 1 readings. So you'll do Beowulf and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Although, I will say the one that I enjoy more is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Although I can't remember if it's difficult to read in the text. No, it's a pretty good translation of the text. If you were to read this online, it's going to be in different form of English, I think, because it has to be translated from kind of a Middle English type thing. Beowulf is fully in Middle English in our book. Wait. Oh, no. Beowulf and Sir Gawain in our text are completely translated. Canterbury Tales is the one that's in Middle English. Or is it Old English? I don't know. I'm now confused. Because I watched something the other day where some people were very confused and thought that Shakespeare was Old English. And now it's got me all confused because I know that that's not right. That's modern English. Shakespeare is. But Beowulf was more Germanic than it was even English. But I'm pretty sure that that's Old English. Canterbury Tales is Middle English, which is strange, but we'll talk about that later. But you'll read one of those. Then you'll get on and before midnight do a discussion post, an original one, where you talk about your thoughts and opinions about Beowulf or Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. You don't have to do both. Then you'll reply to 2 people. And that can be about one or both. So if you decide only to write your discussion post about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and then reply to 2 people who also wrote about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, that's an option you have. Or if you want to do only Beowulf, that's an option you have. Or if you want to do an original post about Beowulf and 2 replies about Sir Gawain, that's up to you as well. There's no right or wrong way to do it as long as you're writing about at least one. What else was I going to say? I will say that it'll make it harder if you do only just read one. It will make it harder to do the quizzes later because you'll only know half the quiz questions. So that's a risk that you would have to take. So once you've done the discussion post, and notice it says there's one called 0 and one called 1. 0 is just introduce yourself. Say hi to 2 other people.
Hello.
So you get basically free points out of that. The other one's going to be about Beowulf or Sir Gawain. Notice that I have a discussion post 0 and a quiz 0. The reason I do that is because I kind of want the readings to line up the numbers with the discussion post and quiz numbers, so that we have day 1 readings, you have discussion post 1 over day 1 readings. Then day 2 readings, you have discussion post 2 over day 2 readings. So they generally line up and are easy to identify which one goes with which. Then after we do the discussion post over Beowulf and Sir Gawain, which is, we've never talked about before in class, then we'll come on Wednesday, we'll talk about Beowulf and Sir Gawain. Then you'll leave class that night, and by Sunday do the quiz, which you'll need to do it beforehand. I always say do the quiz first, because if you wait to do the quiz until Sunday night, but you went ahead and read Canterbury Tales to do the discussion post first, then you're like, oh crap, I got to do that quiz on Beowulf. I don't remember what that was about anymore, because I've read Canterbury Tales. So it's always best to do quiz, then read, then discuss. Quiz, read, discuss. And then Wednesday, we're going to be talking about Beowulf, Sir Gawain in class. You'll leave, go do the quiz, read Canterbury Tales over the weekend, discuss Canterbury Tales, do the essay before midnight. Then we have day 3, and it goes on like that through all 10 of the classes. With King Lear, that starts on, let's see, we continue Sir Gawain and the Green Knight if we have to, and discuss Canterbury Tales next Monday. Wednesday after that, we'll discuss King Lear, which is the day 3 readings. So you'll have to have read King Lear, and you might have to read it online if you don't have a book by then, which it's fine. I mean, it can be read online, it's just harder. And if you'll remind me, there's a website I have that helps with the Canterbury Tales, because our book version is written in Middle English, and it's damn near impossible to read. So you might want one that's got English side by side for that, and I've actually got a link I can give you if you remind me. Let's see. King Lear, then discuss. We talk about it, do quiz over King Lear. Shakespeare's sonnets, then discuss them. Then have essay 2 due. Then we discuss Shakespeare's sonnets, and because I gave you a handout, the midterm review sheet, the class before, we'll have a midterm in the second hour of class after we talk about Shakespeare's sonnets. So the midterm actually happens after we've talked in class for a bit, and then you're free to go after that. Then we have John Donne and Ben Jonson. Then we have the planning due. Then we have Paradise Lost. Then we have the paper due that weekend. And I don't let people talk about book 1. The reason I got rid of that possibility is because these lines 1 through 26, first of all, that's nothing. This right here, 819 to 841, those aren't line numbers. Those are page numbers. So it's like 20 pages of poetry. Then there's 20 more pages of poetry, then 20 more pages of poetry. By the way, Beowulf and Sir Gawain are about the same. They're really long poems. But if you trick your brain into reading them, though, like they're lines written instead of poetry, it's much easier to read. So pretend like you're reading a book instead of reading poetry. Because it's really just, it's relaying information and written almost like prose. They just didn't have prose back then. They only had poetry in terms of writing stories down. Because it came from an oral tradition, which we'll get more to that later. But the reason I let people write about this is because it literally just says, hey, one time there was this Adam and Eve story, and we're going to talk about that here. And I had all the students go, this whole talking about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden reminds me a lot of when I went to church and we talked about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and I'm just like, oh, come on. Duh. You know, get more creative with that than saying it reminds me of Adam and Eve. It is about Adam and Eve. Come on. Okay. Then we have Gulliver's Travels the next week, Alexander Pope the next week, and so you get a few day break, about a week break of reading from one semester to the next. In fact, about a week and a half reading. No. Yeah, like a week and a half break from reading poetry, which is good. And by the way, the poetry in the second semester, much easier, much shorter. The only difficult problem here is the length. They're easy. They're pretty. I think they're fairly easy to understand, these old poems. It's just that mostly they're so long. And the ones that are long are Beowulf, Sir Gawain, Canterbury Tales, King Lear. The sonnets are real short. They're only 14 lines apiece, and they may take up maybe 10 pages. John Donne's poetry is really short, so has Ben Jonson's. Paradise Lost is long. Gulliver's Travels is like the first chapter of a novel. And Alexander Pope and Gray, those are very, very short, so that won't take you any time. So the length is the real issue here. But you'll notice after Monday, July 3rd, we have a quiz due. And I don't make it due until that following Sunday instead of having it due July 4th, because I feel like that's cruel. Country's Freedom essay due. Like, it's just, I don't know, discussion post due. So I make it due this following Sunday. Then we have the research presentations, which are easy. People frantically getting the stuff in that they didn't turn in. Handout for the final exam review, and then we have exam day on Monday, July 10th. I am assigning every major assignment the first day of class. I'll basically show you where it is, and then talk about it a little bit, but not go in super detail right now. I say everything is available from the very beginning, but in an interest to try to get all the essays done immediately, please don't sacrifice reading to finish writing assignments. We're going to be talking about literature every day. So, and I don't necessarily know that I have a whole bunch of talkative people in here. And then we don't have as many. Like last summer we had like 50 kids. And one of them was Hannah Overly. Which she spoke a lot about the literature, and it was a great way to make a first impression, was to talk a lot about, and I had never had any experience with her, but if you can think of Hannah Overly's discussion in class, that would be a fairly decent model for what I'm looking for. I believe, does anybody want me in this class, if you did well last semester in terms of discussion, to call you out?
I'm sorry?
If anybody did pretty good at discussion last semester, would they want me to call them out and say they were pretty good at it?
I did pretty.
Hayden did great! I think we can all...
Y'all could probably all think about who I would say did some pretty good discussion last semester, and you would know, as my guess. If you're having to think, well, did they? Probably not. Well, like this, I never spoke at all. Did I do good discussion? Then the very last thing I have on there is I have a page that's intentionally blank, and the very last thing is a syllabus contract. I just want you to, real quick at the bottom, it's basically signing acknowledgement of you having the syllabus. I prefer you not sign in pencil, but if that's all you've got, please do pen though if you can. And if you've already signed in pencil, sign next to it in pen if somebody's offering it to you. If you revise an assignment to earn more points, how many more points can you earn? Up to 10, up to 20, or any? All of the points. C. If you're absent 3 times, that results in no penalty, points being taken away, or failing. Failure. Now, I did say there is flexibility, but you have to be open with me about why you've missed to be flexible. The essays may be turned in on Blackboard as soon as they're finished, only on the due date, or never. Yeah, as soon as you get those essays done, turn them in. Blackboard assignments in the course must be submitted before midnight, at midnight, or whenever. Yes, before midnight on their due dates. You'll print your name in that first box, then sign it in the second, because I have trouble knowing who signed if I can't read who printed. And then rip that off and hand it, or pass them into the center, and I'll take them up there. I'm going to move on to Blackboard here. And I'm going to log in there and show you how to do that. I'm going to have 2 different windows open, one with my fake student, Magnus Baraka. He's going to log into the course and show you what a student sees, but I'll also have what I see as well. And Joe, both of those names, Magnus and Baraka, are video game references. In case you were curious. So let's see, we'll click our course here. You can see Brit Lit. You may have more courses, you may not. Is this hard to see? Is it too tiny?
It's a little tiny.
Let's try that for now, because I don't know how big it's going to be later. Let's click the course. Here's what you see as a student. I've actually changed this from Syllabus to Course Home. So now it just says Course Home. I have a copy of the syllabus here at the very top. Underneath that, I have a gradebook student formula sheet, which I haven't talked about, but which later you can use to calculate your grades. I'll open that and show you here in a minute, assuming it ever does anything.
Nope, not there.
This should be pretty accurate, but it should let you calculate your grades near the end of the semester. The only change you'll have to make is you'll have to, for synthesis analysis 1, 2, and 3, you'll have to put the same grade into all three. Oh, wait, no, it's changed. I'll have to change it. No, it's accurate. You'll just have to put the same grade in for essays 1 and 2. It's not opening, and I don't know why, so I'm just going to go ahead and go over to this. Huh? That's never going to happen.
Oh.
So, the first things I want to do is, if y'all all pay attention here, course calendar is also below on here. This will probably be the easiest way for you to access the color-coded version of the course calendar. It's right there. I've got a reading assistance area here. I left that because sometimes people, even if you have the textbook, you need a little bit more help. If you don't have the textbook, here is the Seamus Haney translation of Beowulf. It'll pull up if you click that. And I did not make this available. Somebody has made this available somewhere. I don't know why. This is a translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's far inferior to the one that we have in our book. The one in our book is so much more poetic and it's more descriptive, and I like it a lot better. The other one, it can be read, but it sucks to me, so I wouldn't. I've got the Canterbury Tales, and this is what I was telling you is the website for the Canterbury Tales. It's much easier. This one has what I was telling you with Shakespeare I actually don't like. It says, watch this. Here's Shakespeare. Here's Canterbury Tales. One that happened with his shower suit, the draught of March hath pierced to the root and bathed every vein in such liquor, of which vertu enchanted is the fleur. That's what's in your book. But this says, when April with its sweet-smelling showers has pierced the draught of March to the root, or the drought of March to the root, and bathed every vein of the plants in such liquid by which the power of the flower is created. That is technically correct, but it's missing some of the poetry that the poet meant. For example, look at the word liqueur. Is anybody familiar with liquor?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. You ever heard liquor is called, like, what do they have in stores? Wine and spirits. Because a lot of times liquor is associated with spirits. Oh, good. Thank you, Excel, for finally catching up. Liquor is associated with spirits. So there's something magical about the idea of liquor and the way it has that almost spirit. The reason it's called a spirit is because when you drink it, there's this weird thing that happens to your breath and almost feels like there's some... You drink liquid and it's fine, but there's a reason people cough the very first time they drink liquor usually. They're like, shoot this, and they go, y'all wouldn't know. But you go, and you're like, what is that? It's because there's vapors. And the vapors almost feel like the liquid itself is alive and attacking you. But using the word liquor here rather than liquid is so much more accurate because it gets to the magical quality of what it is to have life brought back to plants from having been dead in the winter. And you don't get that from the word liquid. It's just not there.
It's just missing connotations, basically.
Context, multiple meanings, metaphors, symbolism, all of it's gone when you just translate it to simple English. Changing, a lot of times they change words they don't have to. Oh, where's one that they didn't even have to change it? Let's see. Here's stuff you'll have to know. Eke means also. It says inspired in every holt and heath. I think it's saying in every hold and heath. That has a poetic sound, but it changes the words hold and heath to wood and field. But if you look up the words in the dictionary for hold and heath, they have meanings there, and it works better as the poetry. But if you just read wood and field, you're losing a lot of the poetry. And it says inspired, and it says breathe life into. So it's reinterpreting in some cases what you're supposed to be reading. I'd say read the original, but when you need help, read the English. But that's a website that I have available to you for that. Beowulf is here as well. It looks a lot better in our book, and the notations are better. See, this doesn't even have any footnotes, really. But you cannot read the original on this one. You'll have to go straight over to the English. Leoflod sinning longbrag folkum kefrag father eller horf. Yeah, that's Old English. That's not even readable.
Those are words.
Yeah, there are words there. They're just mostly Germanic. Germanic meaning having German qualities. So down here below, we've also got the King Lear text, but it's got no footnotes, and King Lear's or Shakespeare's sonnets with also no footnotes. So that's to kind of help people who are still getting on their feet trying to get hold of the textbook in time. I know old editions of the textbook can be bought very cheap, but the page numbers will be completely and totally off. And most of you in the room already have textbooks anyway, brought to you by your school. So let me go out from the reading assistant section to discussion posts and quizzes, which I'll get to last. The grades are here, but really you should only use your grades section to tell you what grades you've gotten on essays and discussion posts. Never use the thing that tells you what your average is. It's inaccurate and does not properly display what I want it to display. I've tried. I can't get it to work right. Calculate your grades yourself based on the grading policy I have. That's going to be the most accurate way to do it always. I think I've designed this grades area here to always show you a lower grade than what you're actually making so that you try harder. But your essay grades will always be accurate. Your discussion post and quiz grades will always be accurate. Just plug those in where you know you need to plug them in. Let's go here to assignments. Every assignment's already here, and you can click it. So, I need to... Can anybody not open docx files and to put them up there in PDF? I'll just put them up there in PDF. So you might not be able to see it before the end of the class, but they're all in Word format, so it'll open automatically in Word if you click it. It's going to then open, and it'll say, download this, yes, and it'll probably just do this for you where it shows you it's downloaded at the bottom. You open it. And I'll talk real quick about the census analysis essay. I'm mostly just going to say what the assignment is. And maybe later, if we need to, we'll go through the sample essays. But I don't see having to do that, really. My suggestion to everybody, though, is read the sample essays. The sample essays always give what I consider to be not perfect work, but optimal. Yeah, good word. It's work that I think is possible by most humans. I generally don't use these smart people using the biggest words they know as my sample papers, because it's not very helpful when you have some people who are like, I don't know those words that the student's using. So I try not to include the ones that are written at like a higher than a graduate level. I try to find human essays that people wrote, not like word magicians. Now with the census analysis, it's kind of like I said earlier. The assignment is pick a literary reading and then write a reader response type writing to that reading. Basically take information from the story, synthesize it with the knowledge and experiences of your own life, as well as analyze reasons why your opinion on the work of literature have been shaped by your life experiences. So just think of these questions and to help you writing this. You don't have to answer them one by one, but think of these questions to help shape your writing. What did the literary reading mean to you? How did it make you feel? How did your experiences shape the way you read the story? You need to write what from the story you most responded to, and then what in your life made you respond in that way. I really liked Paradise Lost. I think it's because I grew up in a background where I went to church. However, I kind of disagreed the way that Eve seems to be like a hero, because I always thought that she's basically the villain of the story. And I think that Milton's basically being a blasphemer, because every church I've ever gone to has said that Eve's the bad guy. Also Satan. But that's fine, because you're like, hey, my church background has shaped my opinion on what I think about this Adam and Eve story. And the reason I'm mentioning that as an example is because there's no way anybody's going to go ahead and read Paradise Lost through this first essay. So I know I'm not taking any example away from you. So I want you to say what your opinions are, how you felt about that piece of writing, what it is that stuck with you, what you really liked, what was interesting, and then tell me what in your own life and experiences has caused you to feel that way. So the whole point of this is for me to get you to know why you think what you think. And I'll try to go over more detail on that on Wednesday just a little bit. So think of the questions you might have for that essay before Sunday. And you can read the sample paper too, and if you have any questions about what the sample paper is doing, I can try to answer those. Next essay we'd go to would be critical evaluation. Oh wait, that's where you go to submit, but you click it and it'll let you download it. This one's a little different. I don't know why it's not letting me zoom. There we go. So you again pick a literary work, and then I want you to find or write a critical evaluation essay for a specific aspect of that particular literary reading. The critical evaluation should unfold or unpack the meaning and workings of a literary text by looking at a very small piece of the work, like a sentence or a phrase, and analyzing that piece in context of the author's purpose and/or the text as a whole. So your essay should have a strong thesis, and the rest of the paper should just clearly support that thesis. Whereas the synthesis analysis, you don't really have to have a thesis because you're saying various things you found interesting. You don't have to have a cohesive thesis. I want you to try to provide compelling thoughts about the themes and subject matter, as well as show true insight through closely reading about one small aspect of the work. So whereas a synthesis analysis essay, you could talk about anything in the work and talk about the whole thing, this one I want you talking about a very, very tiny piece of it and breaking that tiny piece down into what it means and why it's there. Don't analyze the author's ideas from a personal standpoint, though. Don't offer your opinion on whether the author is ultimately right or wrong about the values or ideas he or she is trying to convey. I want you to be objective and analytical. So that's, again, the opposite of a synthesis analysis. Think of this as a dissection in which you're trying to discover the many purposes and achievements of one small organ within a full organism. I want you to dissect the little piece that you choose. So as you're reading, you're going to want to try to find little quotes, little sections, not that seem to point out an encapsulation of the plot of the thing. I don't really care if you're like, wow, these 3 lines really show that this story's about Adam and Eve. Like I'm not looking for that. I want you to say, like, what's the important ideas here that this author's trying to convey, and what tiny piece really encapsulates everything they're trying to say in that one small section, and how can you show that that's the case? My hint, where I have a hint and it's in bold, that's always more than a hint. It's usually the thing that people don't do. This essay is great. Read it. Now, the last thing is the research paper, and I really think I've told you everything you need to know about the research paper to get started on it, because I'll go into more detail later. But there is a planning section and an essay itself. So I have you submit to me here, and it's the same assignment posted on both of these, like it's the same attachment. But I have you submit your thesis and what you think the comparison between literary work and real world situation is, and I have you do that ahead of time. So I have you give me a sentence where you're telling me, here's a literary work I have, here's a real world situation that's going on, here's how they relate. Because I want to see if you've come up with something I would find acceptable before you even start writing. I also have you submit your works cited page, tentatively, like what you think you're going to be using for research. So I can approve the research you found, and I can approve the thesis idea you have. Then once I've approved it, go ahead and start writing your essay, and then turn it in by that Sunday, or never turn in your paper before turning in your thesis, ever. If it's the last day of class, maybe. But if it's like even 2 or 3 days before the end of the class, turn in the planning first, because I don't want people trying to write 4 pages on an idea that I would not have approved. I'm like, oh yeah, if you'd turned this in ahead of time, I would have said this is a bad idea and won't work. But you didn't. So here's a 0 on your paper. That's just a huge waste of effort. We'll get to that more later. I just want to show you where this is. Oh, I may have to change these dates. No, that's right. I think that's right. June 25th.
on or before June 29th. If it's turned after June 25th, it may not be graded until July 10th. No, that's correct. So that's where all the assignments are. Now let's go here. Quizzes are simple. I'll just show you. Quiz, navigating to class. Magnus Baraka is going to start it. You have 30 minutes. You have 2 opportunities. Here's the questions. You click. You can say save answer, or you can say save all answers as you go. Ah, crap. I haven't modified it yet. Don't take the quiz yet. I haven't changed all the dates. I always forget that the quiz changes from semester to semester, this particular one. So, did anybody already do it? Okay, good. You weren't supposed to, but I was hoping you did during class. Let's go here to discussion posts. I'm going to show you how to do those real quick. Yeah, leave. I'll take a 0. So there's 2 available right now. You'll only ever see the ones available for that week or for that particular time period, and these will not be available after they're closed. So tomorrow night, past midnight, these will not be able to be done again. They'll be closed. So you only have that limited time frame before we've talked about the literature in class in order to do the discussion posts. I understand on occasion somebody might have lost computer access on a day because the summer's so short. If that's the case and your computer just stopped working, let me know. I'll open it up for you, but I'm not going to do that as a habit. I'm not going to do that every time. Because I don't like seeing people say, oh, yes, here are my thoughts on Beowulf, and they're just the thoughts that I gave them on Beowulf. Like, that's just a waste. I want you developing your own thoughts and opinions beforehand, because I really think that everybody else's thoughts and opinions matter just as much as mine do on these literary works. I'm going to skip the discussion post 0 because that's easy. That's just introduce yourself. Introduce yourself to everybody in class. Include as much or as little information as you feel comfortable with at the end of the post. Tell everyone your favorite book as well as why it has become so. A lot of people don't do that. They don't even read that next part. Then I want you to reply to 2 different students' introductions, welcoming them into the class, and responding to something in their introductions positively.
Do those also have to be 100?
What now?
Does that have to be 100 also for your introduction?
I'm not so much of a... I prefer you at least try to get to 50 on yourself, but 25 on the replies. On the introduction, like, hi, I'm me. I do want you to talk about yourself a little bit, but you don't have to, like, go on for pages. But I'm not going to restrict you from going on for pages if you love talking about yourself. Now, here's how you're going to do this discussion post 1. So I've even given you the reading help here right next to it, and I'll always have what you're able to write about right here. I've actually removed the ones that are in blue, so you don't even see them if all you do is go straight to the discussion post link. So you'll always see it's a post first discussion forum. You have to create a thread before you can see anybody else's. Then what you'll do, and I'm just going to talk about instead 13 Reasons Why, because it's what I've just watched. Okay? Because I don't want to take away the ideas you might have on Beowulf or think that I've influenced them. So I'm just going to let you know. We're going to go a couple of minutes over today because I think it's important that I show you this. Please don't chit-chat if you already know what I'm doing. Okay. Here down at the bottom you see a word counter. My subject, I'd like you to say Beowulf, your name, so I know which one you're talking about and who you are. Probably half of you didn't do that last semester. Here we go. So with the message, I want you to try to hit that 100 words, but like you'll say, overall, I think I liked the show 13 Reasons Why, although I didn't expect to because I generally hate suicide narratives. I tend to think of suicide as a weak way out of the tough experiences of life. And I tend not to respect those who make that decision. However, the show made me a little more sympathetic. And while I didn't cry at all when she died, I broke down into tears when her parents walked in. Because the ones left behind are always the ones I feel most sympathetic towards in these situations. And to be honest, I appreciated that this show was mostly about the people left behind and the cruelties we can exercise upon others and their vast reaches into human emotion. And see, I feel like I'm having to limit myself, and I've got to 126 already. If I got rid of this sentence, where am I at? 95, so I'm just about, so it's not really that much space for your original post. And so I would submit this, and I'm probably going to delete this close to after class. Now let's say I go, okay, let me look at this guy's. Don't reply to your own. I'm just doing this as an example. Then I'll reply, and I'll say, I really disagree. What?
You didn't talk about Beowulf.
No. That's what I told you. I wasn't going to talk about Beowulf. I was going to talk about, let's pretend like they're all supposed to talk about this. I really disagree with your comments on it not taking courage, and I think you're a little cruel yourself. Honestly, these people are the reason she did that, and they need to recognize their role in bringing that about. I think that's the point of the show, and I think you missed that. You can go on longer, but notice I've hit 53 words. I don't have to. And then I'll have somebody reply to that. So you can even reply to somebody's replies. You don't always have to reply to the original post. So I might look at this and say, hey, yeah. And then I look at this and go, what? And so I reply to this and I say, I think he did an adequate job talking about how the cruelties we visit on others are a subject of the show. I think you're just dismissing most of what he said based on what he said about courage in suicide. I understand where he is coming from a little, but I mostly side with you on the courage. I just don't think we need to dismiss everything he just said because we disagree with one aspect of what he said. And notice I'm not like being an essay writer here. I'm not crafting words fantastically. You don't have to on these discussion posts. I just want you getting your real thoughts and opinions out there as quickly as possible so that you can, get to the quizzes, you can read the stuff fully, you can have a lot of time paying attention to that. And the writing's going to come most naturally when you've really read the thing. If you're just reading Spark Notes, you're not going to really know what you're talking about. You're going to be like, well, this summary of Beowulf told me blank, which is not going to help you at all. If you've read through the details of it, though, it's going to be far more useful. So I'm probably not going to make this where anybody else can access this Magnus Brockle one. I'll lock that thread, of course. And by the way, should I mention, I want all of you to be talking about Beowulf and Sir Gawain, not 13 Reasons Why. That was just an example, so I wouldn't take any of the things that you might want to say about Beowulf and Sir Gawain once you start writing. I believe that's it for today. We're going to be talking about Beowulf and Sir Gawain next time. Sorry I kept you longer. Y'all get out of here. Oh yeah, syllabus contracts. Y'all can have those in the center, and I'll come grab those. We'll have to do the info sheets next time. Any more, or is that everybody's? Thank you. This is your first grade, by the way.
Yeah, starting off with
Okay, I guess that's all. So let's come down here. Any questions? Yes.
Are you specifically a console peasant, or do you play with computers? Joe, go home. Some of us have actual questions we need to talk about.
Okay, actual questions?
Yeah. So
Let's do semantics questions and practical questions first.
on
Yes.
June 6th, I'm leaving for a family trip to Galveston.
Probably not true.
100% true.
No, unless you mean you're leaving later today.
July 6th.
There you go. So July 6th, you're leaving for a
Anyway,
trip.
the only day it's both of us. The only day we're gonna be gone is the 10th, which is the final.
Would we be able to do that early?
Oh yeah, you can do it early.
Okay.
You'll just have to let me know ahead of time, and I'll need to have
And
that
then-
available down in the testing center. Probably is where I'll have it available.
Okay.
And then she's leaving early,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah,
I'll
miss
be
it.
missing some the next semester also, because I'm going
Okay.
July 6th to July 16th.
You'll miss syllabus day, but it'll still be online.
Okay.
So just y'all keep me informed about that through email, and also remind me closer to the time that I need to get that exam available to you
Does
early.
syllabus day, I mean, I feel like this is a dumb question, but
Right.
does syllabus day like count towards the 3 hours?
I'll actually in the second semester, if it's just us, I will keep us and we'll talk literature. But if it's us and some other students who've enrolled as well, generally I'll hand out the syllabus, go over the essentials, the changes, and I'll let everybody else go, and I'll just talk to the new people. Is what I do on syllabus day, second semester. Because most of you, the class will work exactly the same the second semester as it does this
Yeah.
semester. And so there'll only be minor differences.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a good
So
question, which I would read.
Is the absence thing like if you 3 you do fail, or 3 or more than
3 you can. It's only if, I mean, the flexibility clause is the most important
Because I
thing.
also have another trip I have to go on
I
in
understand.
August.
But that's what I was talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about 3 absences where I've heard nothing and don't know
Okay.
why you're going.
All right. Gotcha.
Basically.
That just like
That
really.
Yeah. It's if you're gone and you've not told me why, and it's just like you're being lazy and not coming.
Okay.
That's the absence I'm talking about. If I'm kept informed of why and you're gone, and because we have the YouTube, every class is going to be on Blackboard, and you can go to YouTube and look at it, which I didn't show today, which I don't have any classes yet, so there's no point in showing. I'll show y'all next time. But because y'all can look at every single class later, then if you're gone on vacation, my expectation is that you'll be watching those classes at some point, so you'll get to see them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say, kind of that kind of a situation. On the 18th, I have a drum major camp.
Gene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll be gone to like the 22nd, I think, and that's like
Okay.
midterm. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Now the midterm, I might actually make it available to you afterwards. I can't with your final exam because it's final, so I had to make it available before. But with yours, I may actually make it where you'll take it like maybe the next week.
Okay.
Just email me the dates now, and I'll probably have you email me like right before it happens too, so I can make decisions then based on how much I have to do for the class and how ahead I am, how behind I am.
Yeah.
Will help me make that decision.
Alright.
But yeah, just email me those dates, and go ahead and email me the day those dates if you got them.
Yeah.
So I've got them marked. Yes.
I'm kind of in the same situation.
Same situation.
Yeah, I've like got 3 days that I will be missing.
Uh huh.
But I mean, technically it's supposed to be 4.
Okay.
But I'm gonna ask my parents if I can just like leave after college. But if not, I'll be missing the midterm as well.
Okay. Yeah. Just inform me of when those dates are, and just anytime that you're gone, you'll need to keep up with the class videos online, because it'll be just basically the
I'll
whole
have
thing
my
I'm doing right
iPad
now.
so I can watch it the whole time, and
Oh,
then
cool.
I'll get the
Then
notes
there's
from her.
Yeah.
She's my note person.
No person.
I'm not kidding. Like we had Mr. White and I wrote everything he said, even if it was something crazy, because that craziness would be related to his exam.
That's kind of funny.
It's
Luckily with mine, you don't have to write down everything. You can just watch the video later and be like, what did he say? Ah, there it is.
yeah, see, that
so
helps, and I wish every professor did that, because it would help.
I will admit that I'm pretty technologically savvy, And even for me, it's a lot of work and takes a lot of time. Like I mean, I will spend. I mean, it's not just the time. The time it takes really isn't that bad. Like editing a video, like this video will be pretty easy. I'll just start it, save it, but the rendering takes like an hour and a half per video.
That is ridiculous.
Like it's when you realize that people on YouTube who like make YouTube videos, like every time they do like a 5-minute video, probably takes them like 3 hours of work.
Yeah.
And wait.
We made our first year of government with New House.
Yeah.
We had to make a
Our
video.
final
It was our final.
video.
It took like what, 2 days?
It took 2 days for it to upload.
Hey, tell me, did you have an option to do a paper or a video and you decided on a video?
Oh, we had
It
paper.
was an actual presentation, but he's
Oh.
like,
He's
you
like,
can
you
do
can-
like anything you want. Just it has to be a presentation. So
because
we were
none of us really wanted to
yeah.
talk up in front. We just made a video
It was like a
pre-did the
movie
video
action,
and just pressed
movie
play.
action kind of thing,
Oh,
and
really?
we like acted out everything. So, and we were the only ones that did it, and we got the highest grade out of the whole class.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see all that much forethought go into it, and you're like, yeah, that's great.
Well, okay, Hayden did pretty well on his. He and did you have Brian last?
Black?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Them two did an argument, a presidential debate argument.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was.
And
It was
that was
Trump.
hilarious.
Oh,
Trump
please
and
tell me
Mr.
Hayden
Black.
played Trump.
Hayden was Trump.
Yeah,
It was
and,
pretty
and
good.
then
that's
and
fun.
what would happen is like
He was
Mr. Black would make
burning.
like an actual
He
good
was
thing,
burning.
and he would burn Hayden, and Hayden's like, well, yeah, but I mean that's true, but Hayden. So
Really needed a speech class because,
Oh yeah, y'all. If y'all have any questions too about when y'all are doing the discussion posts and quizzes, y'all just email me and I'll try to answer the best that I can. Okay.
thank you.
You bet. Okay, so I may have a situation where in the future, like people ask questions after class that are the kind of questions you wouldn't want to include in the video. But for the most part, I think the questions today were good questions and questions that I could leave on the video because if people have those same concerns, that would be helpful. I may actually real quick, because I have time here and I'm already sitting here, I may go ahead and take people more through the detail of synthesis analysis 1 and just put that on the video and then people can watch it later. Or I said synthesis analysis 1, I mean synthesis analysis essay, because I kind of want to get this pulled up where people can see from start to finish like how to format a video file. And then from there, or not format a video file, I'm thinking about the video, I'm sorry. Format a Microsoft Word file and get it ready to submit for an essay. So I'm going to show the process of getting an essay in, getting it formatted, and then posting it to Blackboard, and I'll do that with the synthesis analysis essay. I'm not going to write the whole essay in front of everybody, but I mean, I almost could. It's so easy for me to write about things, I could just about do it. Let's see. In fact, why not? Why the heck not? How long is it going to take me to write an essay? Probably not very long. And I can write it about something that nobody else could. I don't know. We'll see. Alrighty. We'll start with, what's the best way to start this? Let's go with making a new file. And I'm going to make it big on the screen, even though it's kind of awkward for me to write this now. I don't include the heading in the word count, so I'm just going to start writing. In fact, let's do Magnus Baraka, because that's my fake student. We'll pretend he's writing this. Magnus Baraka, and I always like the heading to be single space, so I'm going to go single space this real quick. By the way, you might have wondered how in the world he just single space. Up here is people usually single space. Right there, and you can do double space. Additionally, if you are on a line and you push Control button on your keyboard and then 1, CTRL1, that single spaces. If I put CTRL2 and then push the number 2, that makes it double spaced. So I just made that go back the way I did by hitting Control Z, so it undid what I just did. But I can go to Control 1 again, and I can hit Enter, and now I'm back on this line. So the class is Brit Lit 2, or Britlit 1. The semester is summer 1, 2017. I'm not a huge stickler about how that's written out. There are very different ways of how to write, like British Literature 1, and Britlit 1's fine, or you could do British Literature I, because that's the Roman numeral for 1, but I really don't care that way. And then Nichols, because I just like the class, the semester, and name of me. And then enter. Center it. By the way, I hit Control E to center. I'm going to say synthesis, analysis, essay. Enter. And I actually like to do one more enter before I start the paper, because I like there to be a separation between the heading and the title and the paper. So I'm going to enter one more time. Then I'm going to hit Control L, because that'll make me go to the left. And I'm going to set up, and you go here to paragraph settings. That's the easiest way, I think, to set this up. But you do a spacing before and after of 0, and make sure that's true of the whole document. It was single so far, but I'm going to make it double now. And I'm going to set up a first line indent of a 1/2 inch. On a works cited page, you would set up a hanging indent, because that's where you want the citation, the first line to be at the left and the other ones after that to be after. But I'm going to set up a first line indent of a 1/2 inch. And hit OK, and all these say 0, which is what I want. So now I can start writing the paper. Let's look real quick at the sample synthesis analysis essay, because I think that doing that would be a nice way for us to start. I'm going to go here as Magnus Baraka, get out of the discussion post. I do want to say that I hope that I didn't make anybody uncomfortable during class talking about these particular ideas, but there are people out there who think that suicide is a cowardly decision. I'm not necessarily saying that I do. I was just trying to create a character who had an idea that might offend some people. Then I had somebody who was getting offended. Then I had somebody saying, no, let's be more understanding. I really do kind of side more, I think, on this guy's side, is that he's being, let's always look at every situation as its own situation and try to be understanding and open-minded of other people's viewpoints. Because I really think that that's important to being a person. So let's go over here to assignments. Let's click on the synthesis analysis essay. I need to put those in PDF format. I can't forget that. You'll save it. You'll open it. And what I'm going to do is look down at the sample paper. So we're going to talk real quick about the sample paper and what makes it so great and that it does the things that I want. So I'm scrolling down. By the way, there's a second page on this synthesis analysis essay packet that has Blackboard and Campus Connect help. So you could look at that and look at the various help you can get with Blackboard and Campus Connect if you're having issues with that. I generally go over most of that stuff in class, but there's always there in case you need it. Phone numbers, people to call. Here I've put space just to show the space. Oh, right, I forgot I did that. So, you don't necessarily have to have that extra space I was talking about, but I would say go to the sample paper and use it as often as possible to help you. So I'm going to actually, this is weird, but I might actually write an entire paper here. Let's see, over 13 reasons why. Because I just finished watching it. It's fresh on my mind. And my suggestion is if the sample paper has a formatting on it, like for example, just now I was talking about how I like that extra space between the heading and the paper itself, and so I did 2 spaces. But honestly, I see right here that there's no extra space on the sample paper. Like I've got it in purple, like how there's where the space is, space. So, and notice how the heading is way different in both cases. And this one actually says synthesis analysis one. It has the essay assignment in it, which I don't really need. So notice I'm not a huge stickler on the heading and what it looks like. It could be like whatever information you find appropriate, as long as it's 4 lines, 3 lines. And now I'm going to read this, and we'll talk about what it does well. So remember, it doesn't have to have a strict thesis. It can talk about various elements of the literary work. You relate it to your own life and experiences as a way of explaining why you think what you think about it. So very little plot summary, mostly just talking about your opinions on the work. So let's see. So there's a story in English 1302 called The Birthmark, and it's a story about, really I think that the very beginning of this does the plot, basically all we need to even know to get started. In Nathaniel Hawthorne's story, The Birthmark, a man marries a woman with a small red birthmark on her face. Georgiana had always liked it until her husband Elmer grew to hate it. Since he was a scientist, he became obsessed with thinking of ways he could remove the blemish so that she could finally be perfect. But I think he misses the point of perfection. I mean, that's really all you need to get started. Guy's married to a lady, she has a birthmark on her face, he's a scientist, he says, you know what? I think you're almost perfect. If we could just get rid of that birthmark, you'd be perfect. And so you can see the problems that there's going to be with that, you know, with the you're not perfect and you should be. So there's going to be some conflict there. But here's what this guy had to say about this story. First, he starts off and says, Elmer said that truth often finds its way to the mind, close muffled in robes of sleep. To prove his point that he had a right to hate the birthmark. But it wasn't a dream that made Elmer hate the birthmark. It was his own wicked heart. Instead of showing the truth, I think dreams are fiction because people would react in a different way in real-life situations. Of all the dreams I've had, I cannot think of one that had made me figure out the truth about something. Some dreams are too good to be realistic, some are unbelievable, and some are vivid and scary at times, but I never found any truth I could use in my everyday life. So this is kind of what I'm looking for. I mean, he's talking about what he thinks about the ideas of dreams in the story. But he doesn't give an example of a dream he had one time that did not make a difference to him. Now, it could be that he doesn't remember those dreams because they didn't make a difference to him. But I don't know that for sure. So I'm hoping he gets more detailed about the way it relates to his own life and experiences later. Elmer's helper, Aminadab, displayed wisdom when he said, if she were my wife, I would never part with that birthmark. I don't know why I gave him that voice, but I always have. Aminadab wasn't a scientist like Elmer. He thought the birthmark was minor and wouldn't want to remove it because he liked her the way she was and how unique it made her. The birthmark was minor, and you have to look past it for who she is as a person and not just something on her face. Aminadab, unlike Elmer, understood that. Now, I'm getting kind of worried here because all I have here, again, are opinions of the story without really any reasoning why, other than just this is what I think. I want to know like what it is in his life and experiences that makes him come to these conclusions. Toward the end of the story, Georgiana states that life is but a sad possession. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to do my Georgiana voice. Toward the end of the story, Georgiana states that life is but a sad possession to those who have attained precisely the degree of moral advancement at which I stand. Being what I find myself, methinks I am of all mortals, the most fit to die. It's ridiculous that she is willing to die over someone else's perception of her birthmark. In the beginning of the story, she found it to be so essential to her character, but at the insistence of someone who finds fault in it, she is suddenly willing to risk death to remove it. There's no way something so minor should bring such distress. Life is way too short to stress over something so small, as I'm well aware. In high school, I worried about what people thought about my body type or whether I was overweight. In the end, nobody really cared, but it brought me a ton of undue stress. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, so the person is giving their personal experience that made them feel the way they feel. So he's saying that she shouldn't hate herself and want to die as a result of people's opinions of her birthmark because the guy was like, you know, I was overweight in high school, and in the end nobody really cared, and it made me really stressed out that what people thought about me and it wasn't even a big deal. So that's his personal experiences informing. And I need you to do that at least a couple of times. Luckily, this person kind of starts to do that afterwards. And he says, over the course of the story, I also found myself becoming increasingly irritated over the importance placed on science above humanity. He's more concerned with getting rid of the birthmark that he can't think of anything else just to see if he can get away with it. It reminds me of Jurassic Park when the mathematician says something like, everyone was so excited thinking about whether or not they could that nobody took the time to stop and think about whether or not they should. Hawthorne really encapsulates this idea throughout the story since Elmer has no justification for risking a human life just to see if he can achieve something. Now, this isn't his personal experiences, but his other literary works that are quite different that handle the same idea. And because there's that complication of the link, it's almost like what I'm asking people to do for their research paper, you know, like relate literary work to outside problem. He's writing a literary work to another literary work that's completely different but has similar themes, which is really interesting. So that's a reason he thinks what he thinks, because he liked that movie. Now, I really probably would have preferred if he'd said why he feels that way and what it is in his personal experience that makes him sympathize with that view in both Jurassic Park and Birthmark, but at least he's trying, you know. And I didn't want to include a perfect paper, but I want to include one that like it's a guy doing most of what I'm looking for. And he does it again, so he's kind of really trying to hit that home. It says, it also reminds me of Gattaca, another movie I watched all the time when I was younger. In that movie, everyone has the ability to choose what genetic features they want their children to have, and it calls into question whether or not humanity should have the right to choose what features, like eye color or birthmarks or even mental retardation, should be given to their unborn children. The movie basically decided that no matter what genes people are born with, whether or not they are supposedly inferior genes, they are equal as people in reality. Elmer might miss that point, but Hawthorne definitely intends for us to see. And I think that was a pretty good comparison as well. I mean, he's doing Gattaca, which I saw a long time ago, and this paper was written a long time ago, but it's like people get to choose, basically what it said, like the genetic features they want their kids to have. And it's kind of like Elmer's doing the same thing with the birthmark, deciding whether or not she should have what she was born with, So then he says, I guess I always felt that, even as a little kid, what Hawthorne felt 2 centuries ago when he was writing this, that science, as much as men might think it can, will never replace God. And see, that's a really good line, but I honestly maybe wish that he'd gone with not telling me so much about the movies and explaining his background in church. Because honestly, he says that he doesn't think science can replace God. And that's a pretty strong opinion of people to just come to. I mean, you have to have a background in God to think that. And that might also explain why he felt the way that he did about Jurassic Park and about Gattaca, is that God makes decisions. The Christian God, I'm assuming is what he's talking about here since it's capitalized, is that the Christian God makes decisions about how people are born. And maybe his background in Christianity is why he feels this way, is that she was born the way she is, he shouldn't mess with it, because that kind of meshes with what he's talking about here. It also explained why he seemed not to have, like, he eventually got over the problem with the obesity, is because that was just kind of the way he was born. I'm trying to get at the origins of people's thoughts, and I don't know if that's the origin of his thought, but I really feel like that could be, and as a result, that's what I really want people to go for, is that personal experience that explains why you think what you think. Look into yourself and figure out, why do I think this? Why do I think this way? I was listening to a really interesting podcast. I'm just an aside here. I mean, you're not even here, so it's not like I'm wasting your time. I listened to a podcast today that talked about how we might have all the political opinions that we have in terms of what government party we think is correct, based on what we think how families should operate. So like people who believe in a strict father family, who believe in protecting the small family unit and making sure that their kids work hard to achieve what they get in life, those people become conservatives or Republicans. And people who are more, like, they think that parents who are more nurturing and less punitive and want to, like, help their kids and, like, talk to them about their feelings and emotions, that those people tend to go more Democrat or liberal if that's how they raise their kid. And I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, that's how my dad raised us, was the kind of stricter parent mode. But as I started getting older and I got into, trouble, when I say trouble, I just say, like, I got divorced, I had an ex-wife that, things didn't go that great. And so when I ended up getting divorced and eventually getting custody of my kids, my parents came in and swooped me up, like I was a baby bird. And so they were really nurturing in that moment. I think that's why I became the parent that I became, because I thought of the formative moments in my life, the times when I was most helped by my parents was after I'd already graduated and was out of the home, and they helped me get back on my feet when I had a tough time. And so that's why maybe I've got the political opinions I do now. And that's never really happened with my middle brother, and it's never really happened with my youngest brother either. But we all have, like, different political opinions from each other, and maybe as a result of what we think the right way to raise a family is based on our personal experience. And I thought that was fascinating. And I like that there's been research done into that, like why we have our political opinions we have, and it's based on the way we think the family should be. And that's kind of what I want us getting to here is like doing that detailed thought and introspective evaluation to figure out why we think what we think. Because if we know why we think what we think, then we are masters over our own thoughts. And nobody can put thoughts by us. And speaking of putting thoughts by us, we will know our own bias. You see what I did there? That's clever. Homophones. By us and bias. Oh, it's so good. If anybody watches this later, you're going to be like pointing this out. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to say, Mr. Nichols, I really liked your homophones on the video. I'll be like, thank you. And you and I will both know. Like, I'll be like, you're looking at me and I'm looking at you. We should just do that weird, awkward thumbs up. Like from that Chappelle skit. Anyways. So I really wish that this student here on the sample essay had gone a step further and looked at what in their life made them even like those movies that made them like the story or have the opinions about the story. But you'll notice that the opinions aren't the same the whole time. It's not talking about the exact same thing the whole time. It moves around different subjects. It's personal. It's talking about why you think what you think. That's what I want this essay to do. And it's only a 684 word essay. It's a little above the limit. I gave it a 98 still. But it just wasn't quite perfect. So that's why I got a 98. Now, if I'm doing my own essay, I think I've used up a lot of time here. It's now 1:03. I've been doing this for like 30 minutes. So I've got this thing formatted. I may just write like a paragraph or so. Let's see. Let me see. 13 Reasons Why is a show that recently was released on Netflix that gives the story of a student. I see, I'm already thinking from like a teacher perspective. Girl named Hannah Baker. See, here's the problem is I don't want to do this live because I honestly think that sends the wrong message. I think that essays require a lot of time and thought, and they can't be written quickly. And here's the problem is if I write this summary of this paragraph now, or this story, that 13 Reasons Why is, that what I'm going to end up doing is reworking that summary over and over again until I get it what I feel is right, then moving on to the next paragraph. And that's going to take me a ton of time to sit here and do. Because I'm already thinking how, well, maybe it actually is important that she's a student, not just a girl, because the school factors in heavily to the story. I also don't want to give away the story of the whole show right here. I mean, if you were to get on Netflix, you'd know what happened is a girl commits suicide, then leaves behind 13 tapes. Actually, it's 7 tapes with 2 double-sided tapes. But she only uses up 13 of those sides. And if you know that she committed suicide and left these tapes behind for the people who listened to that she thought were part of the reasons why she killed herself, that's all you really need to know. That gets you the concept, and you can go on from there. And I don't want to ruin the show for anybody who might want to watch it. I might just take the sample essay, plug it in here, and then submit that online and just show you how to do that. So let's pretend that this is a finished essay, because I don't want to write an entire essay over 13 Reasons Why in front of you, because it's just going to take me like hours. So let's see. And I haven't done an outline or anything, so I'm a big outliner, a proponent of outlining. So let's go with the birthmark. And I really do want that extra space. I feel so much better about that. That sounds weird. I feel really much better. So birthmark. So here we go. Let's say that we're ready to submit now, okay? Make sure you get any extra pages gone. You don't have to tell me your word count because I'll just look at the word count myself. Blackboard shows me the word count, but I can just highlight that and see that down here, I don't know if you can tell, but it says 684 words. and I don't include the heading and the title in that, so that's why I've said that. You want to make sure that it's Times New Roman 12-point font if you haven't already, and I already did the correct spacing, the first line indent. I've done the double spacing. In the future, you may need this, but I don't really need this on, I only need this on a research paper. But if you do header and footer, insert. If you'll remind me later, I'll show you how to do the page numbers on all but the first page. It actually didn't take me that long. Let's just do insert, header, actually we'll do a page number. Top of page, right side, and we'll make it, it's got to be the last name with the page number. And technically you want it to be different first page, so the first page doesn't include that, only the pages after that. So hopefully, since I verified it was on the other page and I clicked different first page while I was on the first page, it should now only contain it on every page afterwards. So technically that's correct. At this point you'll close header and footer and get back to your writing, but you're done. So what I would suggest doing from this point is you hit save, and I just hit Control S for save. And then what I would do here is, you know, have a folder on your computer, which I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to Browse, and generally speaking people put things in their Documents folder, so I'll put one there. I'll make a folder for this class, and I'll call it 2320. Let's just make a new one. No. New folder. It's going to be English 2322, Summer 1, 2017. We're going to open that up. We're going to call this Synthesis Analysis Essay Draft 1. And I always put a draft number on there because you never know, like I might change my mind later and have a second draft. So I'll save it here. Once I've saved it, if you're in Microsoft Word, it's fine to leave it in that format, but if you're in another type of program like Google Docs or Apache OpenOffice, you need to try to find a way to save it in PDF format. Both of those work for saving papers. So I'm also going to save a PDF format just to show you that it's exactly the same as submitting that other way. Let's go into Magnus Baraka's here, and it's going to automatically open my PDF, which I don't want to do, but I can't change that. Let's go to the Synthesis Analysis Essay because that's where I want to submit it. And you'll notice that it has the due date, the points possible, and you can write submission, but please don't do that. It does not format anything correctly. I'd really prefer people write it in a different program. And it's got the Browse My Computer area, which they've changed the way that looks strangely. And I'll go ahead and attach that file. Let's go to Documents. Go down here to my, notice I have a lot of different class folders because I've done this in many different semesters. And I think that everybody should really do that. Oh, I should rename this. It doesn't have the dash like everything else does. I want consistency dash. Okay. What? Oh, that was the wrong folder. Let's see, 2322, Summer 1, 2017. Okay, good. That's the one I want. Bingo. Let's do the docx file first. I'll show you that a docx file looks great. Now, comments is just if there's something you want to tell me. I'm trying this first in docx format, or as Hayden told us today, docs format, to see if it looks right before trying the PDF. You don't have to include comments, but if you have something that you think I need to know when you submit something, just put it in the comment field. I mean, if you want to just say hello, you can say hello. And I mean, I can't really say hello back. If I remember to say it in the feedback, I will. But you know, it's something. It's got a place for you to communicate little messages regarding your paper to me. And I'll hit submit. In the summertime, it should go fairly quickly in terms of getting you your plagiarism report. But one thing I want to show you just right now is I'm going to zoom out a little bit. and show you that it's always going to put your paper in a viewer and show you what it looks like in its final form. So you can see here that it's completely right. It doesn't need to have it submitted in any other format. Ooh, look at this. They've added something that I've never seen before. It says, success, your submission appears on this page. The submission confirmation number is, and it has a confirmation number. Copy and save this number as proof of your submission. View all of your submission receipts in My Grades. I did not realize that that's something that they've done. So I'm going to copy this. Where should I keep it? Probably best to have a file on your computer. And since they're so simple, it might be good to make like a notepad file, which I'll make. Paste this confirmation code, and I'll call this Synthesis Analysis Essay Draft 1, Attempt 1. Submission confirmation number. And I'll hit enter and just have that below. And then if I have any more in the future, I can do that. Let's call this submission confirmation numbers. We're going to add this to the documents folder. And that's going to be English 23-22, Summer 1 2017, open, and save. So now I've got a folder saved with my confirmation number. So this has proof now that I submitted something. That's really neat. I didn't know that they had done that. That's something they just added, I guess. So now Magnus Braca has that. So I'm going to hit Start New because I also want to submit that PDF version. Here, I'll do it. I just closed that daggum file. That stinks. All right. This is the PDF because the other one displayed wrong. That's not true, but I'm just showing like what you could say. Submit. Now it's going to display the PDF. See if it displays that properly. And it seems to. Yep. So it's all displayed properly. It's got everything there. Now I will note that on Apache OpenOffice, that's the one I've seen have the most problems with displaying, is if you submit a PDF or a Word export, for some reason it cuts off the last 3 lines of the paper. No idea why. And if you don't submit in PDF or DocX, you have all kinds of problems. If it's RTF, it often will just display a button, and when I try to download it, it will be blank. So really only submit in DocX or PDF because it's the only ones I can guarantee. I only grade in that viewer. I will not download files to grade on my own computer because they could contain viruses, and the viewer is so much better for this. So make sure that you don't do that. Now I can go back to my first attempt, and I find it very strange that